society is absolutely designed to shut down 90% of the potential of the human creature. Why should it be the case that society is afraid of realizing human potential? All it comes down to is special interests. That there are those who run things in society, and that there are those who are there to kind of serve them, and serve their ends, and serve their needs. And so what our society has created is a realm of unquestioning meat robots who will perform their daily tasks without complaining and without causing any trouble. And that may be very useful to certain small interest groups, but it's extremely damaging to the rest of humanity. And once we realize our potential, we don't need elites anymore. Who needs elites? Who needs to be led? This is another revelation that comes from working with psychedelics, is we do not need leaders. They are not over us, telling us what to do. They may imagine that that's what they're doing, but they have no right to do that. And the moment we begin to wake up and start asking really profound questions about the nature of reality and about the society we live in, their power is instantly diminished. And I think that's why we've seen such vigor and real nasty unpleasantness put into this horrible, wicked thing called the war on drugs, which has been used as an excuse to enter the inner sanctum of people's lives. See, I'm not sovereign over my own consciousness. If I can't make free choices about my own consciousness, if I can't make those free choices while doing no harm to others, then I am not free in any useful or meaningful sense. And the moment that I free myself, then I become a danger to those who run things in the world. Anybody who has been led to question the nature of things profoundly as a result of psychedelics is a danger to the status quo. We risk being thrown in prison, we risk having our reputations destroyed. If the powers that be enter our home and find that we're using psychedelics, I mean, this is really an Orwellian world that we've created. How dare some guy in a suit sitting in government tell me what to do with my consciousness, while at the same time they're allowing, the glorification and glamorization of alcohol, which is one of the most dangerous drugs on the planet. I mean, alcohol is a seriously dangerous drug, whether you're talking about cirrhosis of the liver, or whether you're talking about traffic accidents, or whether you're talking about violence. Alcohol, there's no doubt about it. Nobody can dispute it. It's an extremely dangerous drug. So a society that says alcohol's okay, and you can even advertise it, but psilocybin or DMT are not okay, and if you use them, you'll be sent to prison. That society is just riddled through and through with unbelievable hypocrisy. And we have to bring that out. We have to show people this is the case, because what's going on here is a fundamental abuse of human rights. We must be free to make decisions over our own consciousness, always with the proviso that we do no harm to others. And any government, any state agency that attempts to limit our freedom over our own consciousness is itself an agency of darkness and control. I think one of the wonders of these medicines, of DMT, is that they reconnect us to spirit. And if there is anything that is desperately needed in modern industrial technological society, it is a reconnection to spirit. That's what's missing. That absence of spirit is why there is so much pain in the world today, and why people are willing to inflict so much suffering on one another. Once we reconnect with spirit, we realize that we are an intrinsic part of the human family. What the psychedelics are showing us is that we are all members of one family of consciousness, and that they strip away all the trivial shit like the color of our skin or the country in which we are born or the legal system under which we grew up. They strip that away and they bare the soul, because, my God, it is a mystery to be alive at all, to have experiences, to have our senses, to fall in love, to be engaged in the world. All of that, if you think about it, I mean, where did we come from? We're born in these bodies, we grow up in a family, we go out there in the world, we take it all for granted, but it's a giant mystery from beginning to end. The maybe psychedelics are agents of liberation. I'm not saying they're all perfect and wonderful and good things, but are they agents of liberation that lead us to ask questions that we would never have asked before? Yes, absolutely. And do they lead us to want to be better human beings? Yes, absolutely. And do they lead us to see the faults and the crack lines in our society which have been so carefully papered over? Yes, absolutely. And as a result, there has been a concerted effort to suppress this growth of freedom. But you know what? It's not going to work. That effort is failing. People are waking up all over the world. Not fast enough yet, not in large enough numbers, but it's happening. It's a small thing. It's growth, and it's going to continue to grow. And humanity will move forward in a positive course. I'm absolutely sure of that, and psychedelics have a great role to play in that journey.
Stand up then. What's wrong with that? And hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Corey LeBlanc, and I like to call myself the ceremonial witch. And probably for my ego, and it hopes it sticks, and people call me that, and I get some kind of brand name, and I start making a ton of cash, and I do it under the guise of making money, and I pretend to teach people, but really all I'm after is financial fucking freedom / abundance / I want to be rich and be a guru. No, that's not true. No, that shit's true, but some people might think that, and I hope to God that no one thinks that, because I got an account on Patreon. I got an account on fucking, what's the other one? Patreon is like a paid subscription place where I could put this stuff out and charge people a fee. I honestly don't think anybody would find it. Maybe eventually. But I do have that account, and I had those ideas, and I thought against it. Gumroad is another one where you can, for digital downloads and shit like that, pay for services. Say, promote the shit out of a product on here and put it on there, and I haven't done that yet either. And truth be told, I'm not really giving you guys like programs or material to follow. I'm telling you what I did and the people I learned it from, and then I'm giving you my perspective on why I did certain things and why to do certain things, and is all I'm doing. So for first of all, I wouldn't charge anybody for that because there's nothing to charge for. And like I said, if anybody went to my page, either my website, ceremonialwitchcraft.com, or my YouTube page, I don't think it's on my Instagram. My Instagram's got like 6 posts, 7 followers, which is awesome, I think, since I've only had it for like 2 weeks. But yeah, I have videos on there saying, I'll give my airtime away to anybody who wants to talk about their brand of spirituality. I'll give my airtime away to anybody who wants to say anything, do anything, talk to me, ask me questions, whatever. Just come on the air and test the water, so to speak. I'm going to put something on from Max Egan in a second there. And that's what he talks about, how the fact he's not special. And anybody should do this, or everybody shouldn't be afraid to do this and thinking that he's special. And to me, this is one of my favorite things he's done, and it's one of his most recent radio shows he's done. It's not his show. He's on another show, End of Days Radio, I want to say it is. And, he gets into some pretty personal topics, and, there's some personal things on there that I don't really want to put on the air, so I might mute, but I'll put the link to the original thing there, and it's about him. But that's the thing, Max puts all his shit out for free as well. Like I said, I identify with Max, I resonate with Max, but I'm not going to adopt his belief systems, They actually talk about witchcraft and scrying mirrors in the end, and they relate it to cell phones. A scrying mirror is a black mirror. I have a scrying mirror, I made it myself. It's a black mirror, I painted black. I use chalkboard paint to do it, but you can use any black paint. You don't even have to do that. You use a scrying bowl. I got a bunch of black bowls here. I put water in it, and bam, there you go. There's your scrying bowl. But it's not about the bowl. It's not about the thing, and it's not even completely, it has everything to do with your third eye and all that, but not in the sense of the New Age spirituality movement would tell you how it is or whatever. And maybe I find New Age stuff is all from a perspective of people that meditate their life away, so to speak, and are in love and light all the time, and they're balanced people, following like a very Zen Eastern tradition. And so I don't like to ever talk bad about New Age. I still am subscribed to the Higher Self channel, and I still look at stuff. I actually recorded something today, and it wasn't about what she was talking about, even though some of the things she talks about are relevant, but it was the fact that she was talking about geological storms, how they've been seeing borealis, whatever, the northern lights down south, Texas, Washington, Florida, are seeing the northern lights. And I literally just played a clip last video where I talked for about 45, I talked about for about an hour before, and then 40 minutes at the end, and I had about, 50 minutes of information in there, which is pretty dark and gloomy stuff. But for the most part, he was going through the timeline, showing you comets going through the sky, and every time there's comets, volcanoes, earthquakes, northern lights, and mass hysteria, people having headaches, people going crazy, locusts, bug swarms, lice infestations, all these different things, diseases, all these different things were happening around the same time. And I punted the notion, but it wasn't to start a conspiracy or continue, because it's not a conspiracy I am starting per se, it's already out there. So continuing on to the conspiracy that there's an end of days, doom and gloom shit about to happen. I don't believe that. So if you think that's what I'm trying to promote, well, I'm telling you right now, it's what I'm promoting. However, I am trying to bring light in with darkness, because you can only see the light when you're in darkness. So the darkness that I'm bringing through this revelation, I guess, would be the fact that this happened before. And, people like to talk about them spraying the skies, and they're allowing people to think that they're spraying the skies and killing us with all these things, and they might be. All those chemicals up there are probably harmful to the human body. And they're allowing us to do that, and no one's doing anything against them. So it just keeps going. All we're doing is talking about it. No one's organizing. No one's taking any lawsuits. No one's doing any of this shit against them. There might be some that have tried or have done it. I don't know. I'm sure there is out there. And if any of those people are listening to this right now, I thank you. I salute you, and I respect you from the bottom of my heart for actually doing something. You are and always will be, in my eyes, a fucking hero. And thank you. And I wish you would make it known to me who you are. And if anybody has any information about people that have done lawsuits, and it's not just words, and it's not just emptiness, because I've heard about people saying they've done things, and then when I asked them, it was all horse shit. Or I looked it up. I went to their court documents in their city, and once again, they might not expose that stuff, so maybe it's real, but for the most part, it all just smelled like bullshit. So if anybody knows anybody out there who's done things like this, like I put out information on the people that I know 100% have done things with the law and changing their name and reclaiming their dominion, knowing thyself, getting rid of the fiction, getting rid of their capital's name. I put that stuff out there, but I don't know of anybody actually trying to fight, the chemtrails. I know there's a guy that has this a thing on YouTube that I saw a long time ago before I even got into the magic and the witchcraft, but he was in front of a university. He was at a university or somewhere at a conference, and I was more middle-aged, so older people in the crowd. He didn't have enough young people in the crowd. He was upset about that, but he was going through chemtrails, all the patents they put out, how Bayer Aspirin had the patent for to making a medicine to help reduce and cope, basically, not cure, but cope with whatever happens from the things that are in the sky spraying. Okay, so right there, he ran with the idea that they were doing it on purpose to kill us. There was an agenda, and he may have done something, and that guy is awesome in my eyes. However, to me, the chemicals are put in the sky, yes, they're probably harmful for us, just like our pesticides are harmful for us on our plants, but they kill the insects. What's the alternative of letting the insects eat all the shit and we don't get to eat? So it's the greater good kind of thing, and I'm not saying that's good, I'm not saying that's bad, I'm just saying I understand both sides of the fucking coin, and there's probably something else that we can do if we really thought about it, instead of just putting poison on these plants. But the point is those chemicals they're putting in the sky are probably the only chemicals that'll make those clouds stay as long as they can up there without just getting rid of them. Because you can watch a plane go by. You'll see planes go by in the sky, nothing behind them. And then you'll see a plane go by and there'll be a contrail, condensation. Just like the fog we had this morning here in Cornwall, Ontario, Canada. There was a fog everywhere. It was hard to see in front of you. It's because the air was cold, but the earth is still warm because the earth hasn't froze yet for winter. When the earth freezes and the air is cold, you have no condensation because you have no heat and cold mixing. But once the heat from the earth mixes with the cold air, or vice versa, like in spring, when the ground is still cold, But the air gets warmer, we also get a fog. And you can kind of see the difference between the fogs, but they're very similar. But still, once again, there was a very, very big misty fog everywhere this morning. And it wasn't because of of the comets and all that shit going on in the sky. It was just because of the change in temperature. I look outside, and on today I've seen about 5 squirrels. Maybe it's the same good, hard-working squirrel, but at least 5 squirrels, or 5 times I've seen a squirrel with a nut. Or one time it was actually a little ball, but it was a yellow ball. It was an orange ball. That would have been cool though. But it was a yellow ball in his mouth. But the other times they had nuts or other things because they're getting ready to hibernate. This was, maybe they've been doing this for a while, or maybe this was their first sign that, ooh, that fog means we're running out of times, by the next fucking new moon, we're going to have to be hibernating kind of thing, because that's how these cycles work. Basically, by that next new moon, they're going to probably have to be scarce and, barely coming out because it's going to get pretty cold by that next new moon. Because we're almost at the full moon, so that means you got another, 15 or so days till the new moon, something to that effect. But anyways, one more topic. With the notion... Sorry, I lost my lighter, so I'm lighting the smoke when I smoke. But I was trying to punt the notion of how easy it is to create a conspiracy simply from facts. Simply from facts and data we collected. Data that the government has to put out there, has no choice, or, because in all honesty, if the government doesn't want you to know something, you're not going to know it. Everybody knows that. That's the one thing we can know. And they only put out opinions and notions and things that they want us to know. And what they put out there, okay, unless it's by accident, unless they couldn't control certain variables and it was a pure accident, but for the most part, they only put out information that they can control the outcome, that they've already went through, debated, and maybe even had some kind of think tank think of all the ways they think the human population are going to take what this concept is that they released happen. So let's say, okay, 9/11, before 9/11 happened. All right, so hypothetically, put this thing in this room, show these people this thing happening that they don't know or they do know. I don't know how these think tanks work, but for example, they would show something like 9/11 happening in some kind of CGI. Or let's go back to the moon thing. Let's punt that notion and see how the people take this, how they respond, what are they going to say. And they're going to come up, well, okay, it's fake. Okay, we did it. Okay. And then from there, they figure out, it's kind of like how I tell you guys to do that. Talked about stoicism, whatever, by doing that negative meditation or negative brainstorming in the morning. Think about all the things that can go wrong in your day, and this way you can control the outcome. Same concept. That's what they do with the things they release to us at large. They throw these notions out, and all the areas where they think people's minds are going to go down and make opinions from, they see which ones they like the most, and those are the ones that have the media focus on. And then the media focuses on that, and it even puts it in your brain even more. So even if someone who's intelligent starts thinking about something else, they turn on the TV, and the media, the news anchors are thinking this, and the next person they talk to, hey, did you hear about this? And before they say what they're going to say, they're already regurgitating what the media said, because they also heard their mother say it. So then that person who had a good thought, who probably has a different opinion, but still probably one of the ones they control, but they had an opinion, well then they're going to go on board with the media because they don't want to be that one person and out of 10 that thinks differently. But then they also release those other opinions to the truth movement or new age or whatever you want to say, the independent media. So the independent media has a different outtake, but it's still one that is of and is been approved by the establishment. So it's still not the truth. You know what I mean? Yes, it's a different opinion, but it's still all controlled. So that's what happens. And anyway, so I'm putting it pretty, but that was my point, is the fact that the truth movement, okay, and I'm not against the truth movement. I love that people are doing this shit. And if the only thing you do is stay at home and Google shit and try to figure out and come up with a truth that works for you and put it out there, then that's great. Thank you for providing that service to people. Just don't force it on people. And don't pretend like your truth is better than anybody else's. So I do want to apologize because I may have came off like that in my last video, acting like kind of a douche and a dick. But I didn't mean to. I really didn't. I just get very passionate about this because I'm not even going to lie. I did actually came to tears in that first part when I was thinking about 9/11. I can get very emotional when it comes to people and death. And, as soon as I visualize something, as soon as it happens, even whenever I can't control it, it's almost as if I'm feeling it. And that's kind of the way my I'm not saying all empaths. I don't even want to use the term empath because of all the negative connotations been put on it. But as someone who feels other people's emotions and feels their true emotions, even though they're putting off a fake emotion and shit like that, that's how I feel, you know? That's how my empathic abilities work. So whenever I start talking about 9/11, I feel pain from the people who lost somebody. I feel the pain from the people in the building. I feel the pain from all the people that are upset about this agenda. I feel the pain of so many things, and it breaks me down. And then after that goes away, I start feeling the anger from other people that, you know, and it's all just, you know, could be things around me. It could be, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but that's how it works. When I'm around my wife and if she's in a good mood, I'm in a great mood. If she's in a pissed off mood, I'm in a pissed off mood. We're not even in the same fucking room. But because I slept beside her all night, I was right mixed in with her fucking being, her aura, her energy, however you want to call it. And when she's downstairs getting ready and something bad comes on, I wake up angry. And then it's like, oh, I go downstairs. And now that I know, I try my best to not talk to anybody until I go downstairs and say, hey, babe, what's up? And then try to work out her problem, and then I could feel better too. It's either that or I got to cleanse my energy doing different types of meditations, which, you know, basically just comes down to the fact that I just got to basically cut that cord that I'm attached to her by there in the morning, every morning. And it'd be a lot simpler, but I'd rather go down there and deal with her so she doesn't pass on that negative charge to the kids. Because if she's upset about something, money or other related, and the kids come upstairs saying, oh, Mom, I need $5 for this, well, then she's going to lose it on them. I just spent money on this and this and that and this and that, and now you want another $5. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I don't know, you know what I mean? And they didn't do anything wrong. You know, she worked overtime. They didn't see her last night. By the time she got home, they were either sleeping or she went to sleep right away. And the only time they get to see her in the morning, and the first thing they do, they get their head bitten off. You know, it's not fair to them. It's also not fair to her because she just thinks she's working hard and paying for the bills, and she's stressed out about the shit. So it's not fair to anybody. So that's why, you know, I could just let it go, let it be. But I'd rather go down there and try to talk her down, whatever, get her back to center, get her back to neutral. Do my best anyways to do that. And yeah, so that's a little bit about the empath thing. But so once again, back to my last episode, these things are happening right now. You could do a YouTube search, a Google search, and you'll see Aurealis Borealis. I can't say that fucking word, but the other word for the Northern Lights. Is happening in the South and the USA. And the video I put on last time, the guy was talking about those things happening around major cataclysms, around major events. And we're having these hurricanes, we're having these earthquakes, we're having the volcanoes, we're having the people going crazy shooting people, we're having, all these events happening. So it's clear to see, and it's easy to see that there's something happening above us. As above, so fucking below. I'll play that little New Age clip after for you guys, so you just hear it from a New Age perspective there. I'm also going to play a Graham Hancock short little clip there that I think is important. It goes into a bunch of things, but it's just general information about our oppressors and, you know, having to connect to spirit. Talks a hell of a lot about DMT, that guy. And I'm not going to promote any drugs, being an ex-drug user, but I can honestly tell you the only DMT things I've ever done or have any kind of hallucinogenic effect are mushrooms. I don't think ecstasy does anything like that, but you can see traces and shit like that, but that's more chemical than anything. So, and I think that's really bad for you. However, I have done a lot of ecstasy, and I don't anymore, because the more fun a drug is, probably the more dangerous it is for you. But mushrooms and salvia. I mean, they're selling salvia for free, and that's something that releases, for free. They were selling it legally here in my town when I was in high school. I used to go to the store and buy it. So there was more potent stuff that was technically illegal. These were like 10% strains or whatever, but, you know, and you got really high for a second, or for like fucking, I don't know, depending on how long you held it in, basically, because you would smoke it, you would hold it as long as you can, and then you'd be out of it for a few minutes, you know. I was a rock star on stage playing in front of fucking people, is what happened to me. But I fell off my chair and I was strumming a guitar, but really I was just kind of like hitting my nuts, almost looking like a jerk off movement there, just up and down though, from my belly button to my nuts, up and down. But yeah, I was technically strumming a guitar after I fell in the chair, and everybody's making fun of me. And it was fine. I went along with it, you know. But that's what happened to me the first time I did it. The other times I did it was just not much actually happened, to be honest. So But anyways, the point is, this stuff can connect you to the earth, apparently, if you go by what people are telling you. And I can't tell you because I don't know. I do, however, believe in nature. I do believe in earth and nature and the insects and the trees and the sky and the elements and everything that is associated with our earth. Sorry about that. My daughter was in the tub. I was in the hallway basically recording where I could see her, but where she couldn't technically see me. And that's kind of what the music you might have heard, if you heard it in the background at all, was, it's actually like a sleep meditation, 432 hertz song from Infinite Waters, which is Ralph Smart's YouTube channel. And that's because I trust Ralph Smart. Unless you have, and I do have such a device on my laptop, but it takes time to run, and I've done a few songs from a few of the free, 432 hertz people on YouTube, and it actually tells you what the hertz range is. And I'm happy to report that most of them are legit and are 432. There are some, however, that are not 432 hertz, and that's going to come everywhere. And, it could be seriously a mistake. They could have fucking programmed it to be 432 hertz and then something else happened. I don't know. So for that very reason, I'm not going to expose or say anybody's names because, first of all, that'll get this banned from every platform and shit like that if I do that. So I'm not going to do that for that reason mainly. And because of the fact that I don't know if they're doing that on purpose or not. It is just music, however. And, whenever I did further investigation on those people's channels of different songs, they had songs that were actually the right hertz and some that weren't. So it could be a straight up accident. Yeah. So just make sure if you're getting one of these songs to, program water, whether it's for your bath for your kids or if it's for yourself, to bring you back to a more homeostasis state, like I had a whole episode about programming water, and I related to the water in your body, and that's the reason why water magic works. Why you can do things with water. You're taking the water and just like a hoodoo or the Hollywood voodoo doll, basically. The voodoo doll is doing something to somebody else, making that doll a representation of a person, versus hoodoo originally was the opposite. It was the doll that was representing you, and what you wanted done to you, you would have done to this doll. Giving it money, whatever, good looks, whatever you wanted to do. Same concept, but the water is the water in your body. So that water in your body, if you want to attract something to that water in your body or banish something from that water in your body, well, the water on your altar that you're programming, you do something to. So by, having the water on your altar listen to 432 legit music, and you listen to legit music, you have both these waters in the same hertz, in the same vibration, in the same frequency, like attracts like. So it makes the magic work better when you guys are both on the same vibration, same frequency. So that's one of the things I went about in one of the videos I talked about, having both the water you're programming and this water the same. Putting salt in your water, I told you it was the cure for the common cold, like the Himalayan pink sea salt. If you can get your hands on Celtic salt, I think that one actually has 90 essential minerals that your body absolutely needs, versus I think the 82 in pink Himalayan sea salt. However, I haven't been able to find Celtic sea salt here around my area, so I pick Himalayan sea salt. For the baby's bath, if I don't have your regular bath salts, because I'm not going to lie, putting pink Himalayan sea salt in her bath could be very expensive, and my daughter is a Scorpio, and I'm not saying that's why she loves her bath so much, but she is a water sign, and she loves her bath. She will bath and go in pools and water, and just sit there and play, literally pour a bucket of water into a bowl, and pick up that bowl and pour that back into the original bowl, back and forth, over and over again. And, I only realized after listening to Uncle Birch's video, precise speech leads to precise thought. In that video, he talks about how people say negativity and positivity, and they say negative and positive are the same when they're actually the opposite. Negativity would be positive ions, and Positivity would be the negative ions. If you're talking in terms of sending someone energy, if you're going to send someone some positive energy, then you're sending them negativity. If you're sending someone negativity, then you're sending them positive ions. And people flip that. Instead of saying, I'm going to send this person negativity, I'm going to send this person positivity, they say, I'm going to send them positive energy. But positive energy is positive ions, and those are the ones coming from your cell phone, from, it's the balance. The earth produces negative ions, and that's the whole premise and the whole reason we put our feet on the ground. What also produces negative ions? The pouring of the water. That's why your electricity, your hydro bill, your water electricity from the dams, from the fucking waterfalls. It's pouring water. It's why you wake up and you take a shower and you feel better. Even though that water is fluoridated and all this, it's still water at its core. And yes, it has been compromised, but it still has the original whatever in it. We've been compromised, but we can still connect to spirit, right? So we're trying to not be so compromised anymore. But the point is, just pouring water into a bowl back and forth is healing. And my daughter does that just by instinct. She will do that over and over again. And if you think it's a coincidence that she is a water sign, well then get off my channel. No, just kidding. Don't get off my channel. But it's just funny. You can find these little things. And when you start seeing these little things, you're starting to become more open. When you can take inspiration and find knowledge and things as your daughter pouring water from one cup to the next, and you realize that, wow, she is instinctively, subconscious mind only driven, and she's doing this on her own without any knowledge or knowing any of the shit I know. And that little baby right there is 100 times more smarter than I am. Because if I was so smart, I'd probably be doing the same thing, trying to heal myself. But instead, I'm out here trying to preach and pretend like I know something more than somebody. You know what I mean? And she's over there healing herself. And I'll say, no, stop, don't do that. You're making a mess, and get mad at her. You know what I mean? When she's just healing her body, or she might be trying to heal somebody else. It's absolutely beautiful. But anyways, I'm way off topic. But that's nature, baby. That's nature, So Infinite Waters has a few 432 songs on there. I've tested it, and it is the right hertz. Like I said, I trust Ralph Smart. Anybody you trust, listen to. There's things you can get, free apps, but they're trial versions. I don't think it's from the App Store, though. You have to go and do some, not illegal downloading, but you got to do a little more in-depth search for it. You're not just going to find it on your iPhone in an app store. You might, but you won't. So don't just put something on like that and go to bed to it, because if it's not the right frequency and you're listening to 440 hertz, which is very damaging, which is all the music, most radios and movies and TV and everything we watch is 440 hertz, because it makes us more programmable, it makes us more listenable, it makes us not so, I don't know about the whole anger thing, if it makes people more angry or not, but it's supposed to be, if you go by the information we're given from either independent media or not, World War II, apparently, one of Hitler's scientists figured this out, at 440. So 432 is what everything was programmed up until Hitler's day. However, if you look into history and you see that, you start looking at this Great Tartaria stuff and the fact that we invaded Hitler and not the opposite way, and then we won the war, so we painted the picture that Hitler is this evil man, which I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying if they lied about everything else, what makes you think this shit is real or true? You know what I mean? But, and then all of a sudden, everything that's bad that's still going on today, we'll blame it on Hitler. But yet, we're going to keep it the same. Well, if Hitler did it, and Hitler's gone, and we won the war, then why are we still fucking doing it then? Riddle me that. That tells me that Hitler didn't do it. Hitler, he probably was a bad man. They wouldn't pick somebody who's actually a good person back in history and tell you that they're a bad person, because then you'd be too easy to prove them wrong. They're going to take someone who is a bad man doing something, or even put someone there or pay someone to do these things. So once again, I'm not saying Hitler's a bad man. I'm just saying the whole thing could have been a whole different thing. And I'm not saying anybody's grandpa that went to the war did it for nothing or died for nothing, because my grandfather did go to the war. I'm saying they don't even know. They didn't even know what was going on. They were told the same thing. Do you think these soldiers got to meet Hitler? Do you really think that? You know, they went out there under the same fucking guys, the same fucking bullshit. At this time in America, everything was playing on the big screen. Captain America paints that pretty good in that movie. It's pretty accurate. When they go to the movie theater and before the movie starts, they're showing the war shit. They actually did that. They actually did that. My God, TV was so popular back then. Why wouldn't they show that? That's where news came so popular. That's why all our parents, who technically, like my parents, watched the news every fucking night. Why'd they do that? Well, when they were growing up, the news was the biggest thing. It was the most important thing. And they grew up in times of war, where their dads and grandpas and shit went off to war, right? So they were very invested in their loved ones being overseas. So of course they wanted to know what was going on overseas. And that's why the news is still so popular today. It's starting to die off, thank God, finally, because it's not serving anybody. But that's how they programmed everybody. And one of the ways of programming everybody that the news is something you need to watch. People think it's all these different things telling them to watch the news, but it's as simple as that. Everybody's loved ones were off at war, and people want to know if their loved ones are okay. So they wanted to watch. It wasn't about ratings. It wasn't about favorite TV shows. It was about their fucking family members, if they are dying or not. And they wanted to know if things are good or bad over there. And they trusted these people to give them the accurate information. And unfortunately, they were fucking lied to. And we're still being lied to. And it's absolutely appalling. But I'm not saying anybody whose parents or grandparents or anybody went to the war, that they did it or died for nothing or anything like that. They died for believing in what they believed in. If they believed they were helping their country, if they believed they were saving their family, then they are honorable people, and I respect them, and I will honor them on Veterans Day, Remembrance Day, because those people that died in those wars for good reasons, for doing what they thought was real, for doing what they believed, is the definition of a fucking hero in my book. Someone who's doing something that's greater than themselves, putting themselves on the line to help fix the world, and they were told that this is the right thing to do. So there's nothing against any of those people. I'm talking about the people who ever pulled the strings or made the fiction or changed the story around to suit their own fucking shit. That's who I'm fucking talking about. Oh, sorry about that. I thought I had to sneeze, so I threw the headset off. But anyways, I'm a little off topic. But that's just a little bit about the war and all that. But yeah, so the 440 hertz apparently came from then. We're told that it's a scientist from Hitler. There's I've been to a jail. Well, I can attest to this. And maybe it's because I'm sensitive to energy or whatever. But there's a hum in every room of the jail, from the administration, the A&D, to the bullpen where you're getting ready to get processed and put somewhere else, into the dorms, into the pods. I've never been held in max. I was in a max cell before, but it was used for the weekend dorm. I was there once, and there's a hum in every room, a tone. And they say it's from the lights. But when the lights go off at night, the hum's still there. So that's a crock of shit. And that hum, I couldn't test it because you can't bring a cell phone in jail or any machinery, and they wouldn't let you. You'd have to go to a jail that's done now and see if they still have the hum. But there's a hum, there's a tone in every room. And I'd be willing to bet that is a 440 hertz or a different kind of hertz that is even more detrimental to people. And that's for the same reason that, you probably hear that in different colleges and high schools and different facilities, probably in government buildings and stuff like that. You probably hear that same hum, a tone. And there's probably people out there listening to this right now saying, fuck, I know exactly what he's talking about. I've heard it too before, and thought maybe it was the lights and all that. And it could be coming from a specific kind of light. A light is sound. Sound is light. Whenever you break it down, there is a speed of light and the speed of sound. But technically, before there was light, it was a word and it was sound. And if you go by the Bible and shit like that. But anyways, they're connected, those two things. They're two different things, but everything comes from the same thing. But anyways, so that's a bit about the hertz, 440 hertz, programming the water in your body and all that shit. But anyway, so back to the main thing I wanted to talk about. And it was just supposed to be about my last video. My last video, like I said, I was just trying to show that you can either create your own or add on to an already conspiracy. And it's not very hard to do. And that's what I was kind of trying to do. And like I said, I truly believe in what I was saying there. I truly believe that the fact that they spray the skies is to hide. Because like I said, if I watch the skies at night or in the day for a long enough period of time in the same spot, well, your peripheral vision are going to pick it up first, but you're going to basically see fireballs. I've seen them. And I've seen them very close where I thought it was a fucking something happening to the light in my fucking, what's it called? It's not Home Depot, but it's the other one there. Lowe's. We're in the Lowe's parking lot. And it was right behind the light. And it was so big. And I asked my wife if she saw it. She didn't see it. This was at night, mind you. But there was no way it was a shooting star. Now, I said shooting star in the last video, but that's just because I can't tell you what it is. And then I said fireball during the day because, well, how could you see a shooting star during the day? You can't. Technically, the stars are still there right now, though. You know, just like the moon reflects the sun's light. But yeah, when the sun's still up on our plane, you can still see the moon. You know, it puts a whole new spin on that, what that doctor said in that video about the moon being a plasma. You know, everybody thinks the moons are on opposite sides of the earth. Well, if that was the case, then why can you see the moon and the sun up in the morning, and then when the sun starts to go down, you can see the moon? The moon is very close to the sun. It doesn't go very far from the sun, because you can go out at night and not see the moon at all, even though you've already seen the moon prior to that. Sometimes you see the moon more in daylight. I don't mean more by you see more of it or it's more visible. Well, I kind of mean more visible, but I mean that it's more in the sky from where I am on the map anyways. Because if I look up in the sky around 5 o'clock, right now, if I'm looking, I got to look like a southeast, and I'll see the moon out of my kitchen window pretty high up in the sky. And then from there, it starts its descent just as the sun comes up. But, you know, I don't see it get to its up point, right? But it comes up somewhere before that. And it is until the sun gets to a certain point that I do see it. So, you know, there probably is a correlation from the sun's light reflecting off of it and all that. Because once the sun's gone, it does get a lot brighter. But you can still see it. But you can't see any other star or anything else in the sky, right? But you can see the moon. And that's my point. All these stars are reflecting the light. And I guess maybe it's just because they're so small and you can't see them, but I'm looking outside right now and there's clouds everywhere. So, but anyways, I'm very off topic. I was just trying to punt another notion, but maybe I should just back off of that altogether. But anyways, the main idea of my last video was that there's all these things happening in the States that guy went through from the Space Busters video. And this is whenever they weren't spraying skies, or technically we were taught they didn't have planes to spray skies back then. So therefore they only had the regular clouds. And there was such thing as a regular cloud. And there was comets constantly. There was very much a lot of sky activity. Now, if you go certain places, right now you can see this, okay? There's comets that come around, there's meteors, there's asteroids, and all this. So if you go to the right astronomical places, you will see this stuff, but they don't talk about it, is my point. But if you go looking for it, you will find it. But the news focuses on what it wants you to focus on. Point is, if you were to put this together, right, if you see comets in the sky every day and night, and then around the same time these things start happening, if everybody started putting them together, then we would realize that what happens above affects us below. That is the first Hermetic maxim. And it might start waking people up if they realize when every time we have these comets, these earthquakes, these hurricanes, these bad things happen, these shootings happen, all these things happen. And when we're not having comets, you know, there's still little bits of things that happen, accidents and all that, but for the most part, things are pretty calm. Well, maybe there's something all to this astrology stuff. Maybe there's something to this astronomy stuff. But we got to look into this stuff. Maybe it has nothing to do with God. But they don't do that. They want to cover it up because they don't want people to see this stuff. Because they want to make you think that some horrible event is going to happen. Or even worse, that they caused some horrible event. That they have the power to cause it. They want you to think they have the power to cause a horrible catastrophe, whether it be from the weather manipulation at HARP, or it be fucking through MK Ultra brainwashing from the TVs, or from spraying your skies, or from the GMOs in the foods, or from these targeted individuals, or from sound and light fucking warfare, from 5G, Wi-Fi wires. And I'm not saying any of these things I just mentioned are fake. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying they want to paint the picture that they are the enemy and they have the answers. They're not going to come out right and say it, but they're going to keep allowing people to make people, because by people going on the internet and saying the government's doing all these things, it's the same thing as the same concept as the media doing it. The media take a story they are given and they report on an angle. So they let people believe what they want and let them put their spin on it. They've already thought about it. They've already figured out these people are going to come to this conclusion, and they already figured out how they're going to deal with it. And they already have patents and things in place, is what I'm telling you. They already have the procedures and the things in place for when you decide this is what we're going to do. We're going to catch them by the nuts, and you're going to go out there on the internet and make it very vocal and let everybody hear you coming, which is the stupidest thing you can do, instead of a surprise event attack or a surprise court subpoena or whatever. And then they're going to just shoot. They're fucking already planned, already prepped, already practiced, already exercised, already whatever plan B or C they had already put in place for you. They already have it all mapped out. And that's what I'm trying to think. We have to start thinking outside of the box for these ideas, because what I'm saying right now, it can also be something they've already figured out someone's going to fucking say and already have an answer for it. I'm not trying to say that I'm immune to this shit and that I'm any different from anybody else out there talking about this stuff, because I'm not. In fact, I'm sure you can probably find somebody saying the exact same thing I'm saying. The reason this all came to me was yesterday I was watching stuff on YouTube, of course, waiting for my wife to come home. My son wants, or my stepboy, the one with ADHD I talk about, he wanted to join the cadets, which I'm not really for, but I don't want to be against because he really wants to do it. And to sea cadets, so he gets to go. And submarines, after a couple of years, he gets to go on a 2-week thing on a fucking boat kind of thing. He's going to get paid in a year to be there. It's free to join, so I don't have to pay anything, which isn't a big deal. I don't mind paying for my kid. In fact, the government that I talk about being so bad, actually, because he's got ADHD, which is technically a disability here in Canada, so he actually gets a check for it. It's not very much, but through that I can claim any sport I want. And because I'm technically not working at the moment, we're back in the right tax bracket as of just not that long ago. Prior to that, though, when I was working, my wife actually works for the government. Some people I'm talking about, so awful about, who's paying for some of my bills. Because she makes so much money. Don't get it twisted. She works at she's not any official in a court or actually making bills or opposing law. She's dealing with people's CPP. She's not on the phones answering calls for that anymore, or anything to that effect. Although that was her entry level, but now she's just dealing with power of attorneys when these people die and what's left, and the family and all that shit like that. I don't really know all the ins and outs. I don't really ask, but so I'm not going to go around saying when I say governments, I just mean the elites of whatever name you want to give them. But sorry, I was getting a dry mouth. But they already know what we're going to come up with and do that. And that's why it almost has to be, like Max Egan says, a non-compliance. Because they have resolvements, they have the answers to all the questions we're going to ask already. And some of those answers might be to just brush us off or pretend they don't know or whatever, they control it so much. And part of that is because of the fact of whatever they are doing. I'm not saying there isn't fluoride in the water. I believe there is. That's why I have reverse osmosis hooked up here. That's why I do the things I do. That's why I have 432 residents going through my house almost 24 hours a day. Fucking right. 100% when I'm in the house. Or it connects from just your iPod off. So it's an old cell phone here. But on the Wi-Fi, unfortunately, I have Wi-Fi through my house. But once again, just protection things you can buy to put around your routers. Short of that, you can put tinfoil around your router. Wi-Fi signal gets out, it can get blocked a little bit from sometimes and be a little weaker. So if someone's playing a video game downstairs and they don't know the connection, they gotta come up and ask me. And if it's a nice day, then I'll take everybody, the kids out of the house and tell them, what you're fucking in for. But anyways, there are things you can buy to put around your phone and around your Wi-Fi routers to kind of protect and reduce this stuff. There's other things you can do to magically look it up and you'll find it. If not, hit an email, I'll send it to you. But yeah, so this old phone no one's using. So when it needs to charge because it's dying, you know, I put on the charger, connect it, and it's on a very low. And it's on. I have these speakers on the main level, but I have one above and below in the basement and upstairs. So I have this tone going through the house, almost like the jazz room that I'm talking about, but it's not a bad one. It's the good frequency. It's one of the ones I'm trying to be true. Like I said, it does stop from time to time. I have it on a loop, but eventually when it reaches the end of the loop. All right, sorry about that. This is something I taped there, and my plug unplugged while I was recording it, and I just noticed that it was a hell of a lot more information that I may have was talking about while it was unplugged, so I can't really hear it. You can kind of hear it, but anyways, I'll probably let it play after, possibly, but I'm going to cue it up to whenever it comes back on. But so anyways, if you couldn't hear what was just being said, it was me talking about how I have 432 hertz going through my house. I have an old DVD player that has Bluetooth connectability, and it also, my iPhone has a charger USB port that I can plug into as well. And I have most of the speakers on the main level, because where most people come to eat and do all these things, leave and come in through. Therefore, most of them, but I have one speaker downstairs and one speaker going upstairs. Through. I drilled a small very hole for the wires to go through, and yeah, I mean, I have gone a while a few times whenever it's died and haven't noticed it or forgot about it, but for the most part I have 432 hertz going through the home. I talk a lot about that at this point, but I'm just gonna summarize now, and I'll just let it probably play or try to fast forward it if possible. And I talk about how I changed all the light bulbs as well in my house. I got rid of as Frederick Xavier talked about doing that, said it's important. He said they do provide a bit of protection against entities, because they have correspondences from the sun. The sun does not, nothing bad happens normally during the day, mostly at night or whatever, free radicals and all these different things. It's worth looking into, to be completely honest. But yeah, I've changed it all, and between those two things, the morale of my family went up. I started talking about the fact that I have one LED light remaining, and it's in the hallway going downstairs, and it gets left on. All the other lights get turned off. The kids remember to turn off the other lights. They turn them off, versus the LED does not get turned off. And I can go down many routes with this. Your computer screens, your LED lights, all these lights. There's a lot of info out there how it's kind of tricking your brain to believing it needs to stay awake, that it needs to stay watching it. It's hurting your eyes and stuff like that. Ralph Smart talks about a little about this, why he's got special glasses he wears when he's on his iPhone and his iPad and stuff like that. So I'm not going to really tell you that's exactly what happens, but for some reason, even my daughter, then when I talked about with the water pourer there, not all the time, but there's times where, the lights are on during the day anyways, if it's like a cloudy day. And she'll go up and she'll grab a chair and be like, come on, get your shoes on, baby, we gotta go. And she'll literally turn off that light. And the kids turn off all the other lights. However, that hallway light is always fucking on. And I'm not saying that people are programmed to, never turn off these lights or whatever. But, my energy bill hasn't changed that much. There is a bit of a difference, but it's not profound. The reason we switched all to those was it was a long time ago at a different place. But it was to save on the energy bill. And it's not that big of a difference, everything here is electric anyways, and when we got the place before we even started owning it. But we changed our gas. Our water is now on gas, and we're waiting to figure out what we're going to do. If we're either going to drop a ceiling and put ductwork up for the gas, or drop 2 fireplaces. But point is, those lights, the LCD lights, always stayed on. So it's arguably going to still use the same amount of energy. And they popped dangerously a few times in my house, like all over the place, like blew up. No one even touching it. The other ones, they just go out, the little wire dies and it's done. You know what I mean? And like the dollar store here in Canada has those ones, and they produce heat and stuff like that. So between those two things, I saw a huge change in my family. And not only that, they remember to actually turn off the lights, which is awesome. But yeah, a huge change just from doing those two small little fucking things. And I totally recommend on doing both those two things. So yeah. It does stop when the phone dies. and I've gone days before realizing it. So I mean, it's not a perfect system, but I 100% found a difference and saw a difference in my family from doing that. I also took Frater Xavier's advice and I took all my LEDs out and put the old fucking light bulbs in that actually produce heat. The old 60 watts. Fucking right. And you know my electric bill barely changed, by the way. And it was a little more, so I'm not going to lie and say it wasn't. But my family's health, my family's morale, their attitudes, everything increased exponentially. Everybody was so much happier and having more fun. And you know, they were able to turn off the lights a hell of a lot more too. Whereas the other ones, they leave on all the time and not sleep. Like I'm talking about the kids in this respect, you know, those lights on downstairs, they would leave it on all the time. In and up from school, I have an example of that. The hallway light in my basement stairs, you know, lower or remote maleficent nature, whatever you want to call that. I have left in the house, and it's just for the hallway. So whenever they go down at night, they turn it on, turn it off. It's just because I ran out, but it's an important spot. Stairs at night. My brother-in-law's here if he's not seeing well or whatever because of his issues. I need a light there. So fortunately, I put that one there. And it's left on all the time. It almost like, I'm not going to say it's programmed with mine's up and shut it off, but there is something there. Whenever we had the 60 watts on, the kids shut them off. They'll leave a room and shut it off. Even the baby will do it. She'll fucking pull a chair up. Like, what are you doing? Outside, get your shoes. And she'll go out of the chair, push against the wall, and turn off the light. But with the LED, she wouldn't. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not trying to start another conspiracy. I'm just telling you what I fucking observed, what I saw happen. It's remarkable. But it improved everything. Between those two things, between changing the light in my home to a warm light, because it does have heating properties, you know, it actually produces a little bit of heat, especially somewhere in Canada. That's important, you know. The much heat you can get, the best. Because running my baseboard heaters is a hell of a lot more expensive than just having lights and little ones that plug into the wall and stuff like that. But you know, I have everything on electric here when I first came here, and we put in the hot water tank that runs on fucking gas. And eventually, we're going to figure out what we're going to do for heating wise, but financially, it's either drop. It almost like, I'm not going to say it's programmed with mine's up and shut it off, but there is something there. Whenever we had the 60 watts on, the kids shut them off. They'll leave a room and shut it off. Even the baby will do it. She'll fucking pull a chair up. Like, what are you doing? Outside, get your shoes. The kids shut them off. They'll leave a room and shut it off. It's a bad thing. You know, 3 levels. Well, at 1 level, that's awesome. That's amazing. Your whole home, the smaller it is, you can make a better vibration in that whole part of your house where everybody's affected. Versus, you know, my kids go downstairs. I don't know what's going on down there. You know. And just another thing about those lights, they actually give you protection against any kind of entities, if that's the kind of thing you believe in, or even negative energy. It's the sun. When the sun's out during the day, there's less bad things that happen. You can look anywhere. You know, the guy, there's things that said about the full moon. On the full moon, people are crazier and things like that. And bad things happen, blah, 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 blah. And that's something that was thrown out there to make it really look bad. And now it's stuck. And it's embedded in everybody's mind. And, you know, it can also be made. You can also make the connection that, you know, people can perform magic. You know, the moon is one of the full moon is one of the best times to do anything, ask for anything, or whatever. So there are always people performing magic on the full moon, more than any other time in that month. So everybody else is performing magic, whether they know what they're doing or not. They are affecting people, whether they're trying or not. So if you're trying to do something, like I've went over before, you're trying to manifest money. And whether you're going to find that money by accident somewhere, or it's going to come in through the mail, or you're going to get a job, whatever the case is, a chain of events through our subconscious minds. Everybody's subconscious mind is connected. So a chain of events around everybody around you, you may know or may not even know, are going to have to do things that lead up to you getting that job, to you finding that money, to you getting in that car crash and getting an insurance claim, to you losing a family member, to you whatever the case is. That signal goes out to the moon, and for some reason you earned it, you did the right offerings, you said the right things, you depolarized yourself, you did everything right. So you are going to get what realize that what you are, that you are a special being, and that everybody has this power, and you just harnessed it for the first time, and you let it go, and it actually stuck. So that signal went out to find the path of least resistance is electricity. We're all like little outlets, let's say. Let's use for example, okay? And there's a cord connected through our subconscious minds to everybody, okay? So there's little circuits and there's big circuits, but there's everything in the middle. Okay? There's one big circuit right around the planet. But anyway, so that's going to find the fastest way for that money to get to you. So that signal goes out through that fucking circuit, and it finds its path, and then it comes back around to you. So that path is going to be someone fucking, like I said, I used the example last time, there's someone who found $30,000 that a Brinks truck left on top of an ATM. So everything that had to happen for that to happen, meaning that person going to the ATM at that time, maybe they had to lose their keys, maybe they had to go by accident outside, maybe they ran out of milk, whatever the case is, they had to leave that specific time. Person who went after, or right before that person, for them not to see that money up there, to the Brinks truck guy getting there, and the reason he forgot, the reason the Brinks guy didn't go check if he forgot, the reason they didn't go back right away and find all those things was a message that initially started from you, from your subconscious mind, and through the moon and any other planetary body or deity that you use, that sent out and affected all these people's minds to not realize to leave that money there or not see it, and make you become the first one there, and make sure you saw it as well. All those things. Oh shit! I don't know how much fucking thing was unplugged. Son of a bitch. Anyways, all those things had to go from the Brinks truck to you. Sorry, my fucking headphones got unplugged somehow. So you might not have heard me for the last little bit, but anyways, I was just talking about how everything had to take place. It all had to connect. So whatever deity, mainly the moon on the full moon, whatever you did your spell, and then that signal went out through that circuit that is all of us. We're all connected. That's why what goes around comes around. If you say something to somebody, you're basically shooting them a charge, whether it's negative or positive is irrelevant. You're shooting them a charge. And if you're in balance, then you're in neutrality. You can't send a neutral charge to people. I mean, you can leave people feeling a little less charged by that way. That's why being more neutral is the best way to be, because you're not sending off any charges to anybody. Leaving people with positivity is okay, in a matter of speaking. But yeah, so all those things had to come into effect, and it's basically you sent out a signal for that you wanted this, and you got it. But anyways, I think that's enough for now. It's very random. I didn't know what I was talking about. But just know I got an episode coming on tomorrow, being that tomorrow is September 11th. And since I've been talking about it so much, I figure I better do some kind of tribute, some kind of show. And I'm not going to say if it's even going to be about the Twin Towers and all that conspiracy stuff. There just might be a show dedicated to those people, honoring them, something to that effect. But I'm going to leave you with this for now, for whatever all the crap I went through, whatever you got to hear or didn't hear. But the full moon is coming up. So, I checked it, and I can't remember if it's in 2 days or 1 day or even tonight. I don't remember, but I know it's soon. So if you're planning on trying to bring something to you or push something out of you, whatever you want to do, make your sigil for it. Get some fucking water. Water's great for full moon magic, because the water is Cancer. Cancer and the moon are very closely tied together, all right? We're not in Cancer anymore, but I'm just saying, it's just this correspondence. The moon is reflective, or the water is reflective. You can see your face if you're looking in the right angle. You know what I mean? Just like the moon is supposed to be reflecting the sun's light, shit like that. It's the womb, it's the mother. You can put something in the moon. It's female. I'm not talking about but I mean, certainly sex does apply. The female body is for input, and the male body is kind of output. We have the outward genitalia. You guys have the inward genitalia. So the moon is, you tell the moon what you want. So that's your male. It doesn't matter if you're a female listening to me or a male, it doesn't matter. But what you're saying, what you're doing, your ritual, all that stuff, that's that positive male energy. And you're trying to impregnate the moon. You're trying to put that energy. I'm not saying this is how magic works or anything like that. I'm just trying to give you a correspondence to try to make sense in your head. Doesn't matter how you look at this stuff as long as you can get it to work for you. And that's where other people's information and books come in handy. If they know what they're talking about, they have the right correspondences, then whatever. And that's why the more people that talk about it, give their opinions, as long as it's not just armchair cultism, it's actually backed by people doing this shit, then you can go with it. But if people haven't done this stuff, then their information is pretty empty and it may not work for you. And, most of the time you can kind of tell. But yeah, so throw your ideas out to the moon, read Aradia, Gospel of the Witches, do the Charge of the Goddess there, read that. I put it on here actually, one of my earlier episodes, it's in there. So listen to it if you want, but yeah, you can find that PDF anywhere, and it's not even a long book. I think it's under 100 pages, by Charles Leland. So check that out, and yeah, do a moon ritual, even if you're a ceremonial magician and not a witch, you should still keep sacred, especially if you're into planetary magic. Well, you're going to honor all the planets but your own. To me, that's why I do both, because to me, and it's just how I look at it, and I'm not saying all ceremonial magicians are like this, because I'm not even complete my course or anything like that. I'm still in the fucking, I'm only in the second grade, elemental grade. Technically I've got 2 done, but the first one is just the neophyte, so I've only got 1 elemental grade done, but which is awesome, because it truly helps, because I truly I thought, like, once I finished, the reason when I first time I went through it and I thought I finished the elemental grade of Earth, I thought I was done, but I didn't feel like my finances were controlled and all that, and I had this opinion, this thought that once I finished the elemental grade of Earth, my health and finances would be great, and I wouldn't have to worry that anymore, and I was on to bigger and better things. And I didn't really have that feeling, because I was still in some kind of scarcity lack mindset. And I'm not saying it's completely gone, because from time to time I get these feelings and I go back to the initial fucking neophyte grade of banish, reject, deny. Get rid of those things, and then I'll actually, if it's something that keeps reoccurring, I'll actually do a ritual to get rid of it. The way I use my magic is I focus on whatever I want for going by the moon phases. If I'm trying to banish something away, well, during that waning phase, I banish away the thing I need to banish, and during the waxing, I pull in, I take my spell, I take Birch's his philosophy and theory of when you banish, you must invoke, and that's how I perform my magic. So whatever it is I want, if I want something, well, the opposite of that, I have to banish as well. So it's not just like, I want this money. Okay, well, if I want that money to come to me, I first got to banish any poverty mindsets I might have, anything stopping me from getting that money, whether it's, fuck is it called? There's a term for like a plateau of money. You have a financial set point. Financial set point, I think, is the name of it. Look it up. Frater talks about it in one of his videos. I think he teaches about it in his courses. I never took his courses, so I can't tell you. But anyway, I really wish I did, though. I still may, because I owe a lot to that man. But financial set point is an important thing to look into, look at, and so these are all things that I take into effect, because if I try to get that money to come to me, well, there's all these things that could stop it, and that I'm aware of. If I'm already aware of these things, then it's more likely to happen, because I'm more likely to think about it and worry about it and shit like that. So I first banish those things, unless I'm already in the waxing phase. So if I'm waxing phase of the moon, well, then I'm going to just go for my spell, but depending on how I'm feeling. And I don't mean to complicate things, but it comes to that push and pull thing. Waxing is, the wane, the moon pushing, and waning is the moon pulling, basically. Push and pull, plus and minus, right? That's how I look at it. So minus would be pulling stuff to you, or does that mean the moon's pulling it out of you? And whenever you're pushing it, means, are you pushing it away for you, or is the moon pushing it to you? That's something you got to look into or define for yourself, or do your own research and come up to you. If you already have an opinion of that, go with that. If there's something you feel instinctively, go with it, because that's what's going to work. All right. If you read something and that's what you believe, if it's from a magical book, then go with that. That's what's going to work. And if you're like me, if you had issues with it and you don't really know, well, you're going to have to figure it out, or write your spell a specific way. All right. And I can get into that later on, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But like I said, it all depends on your point of view. And like I said, I don't think anything's impossible. I think you can push things out of your body and you can pull things to you. And I think you can pull things out of your body and push things to you. You know what I mean? I think you can do all of it. I think it's all about what Birch also says, being a wordsmith, being able to bend your words. If you're not making your words bend to your need, then whatever meanings have been put into those words by whoever created those words, by whoever said whatever, if you're not making those words do what you want them to do, if those words are fucking with you and you're not fucking with them, then yeah, you're still a slave. You're still going to be bound by the word. All these things we're talking about the money and these conspiracies and all this shit. The biggest conspiracy is the fucking English language, which to me is probably the reason they are doing all this shit. Because when it comes down to it, to me, you can say religion is the biggest conspiracy. You can say the monetary, the law system is the biggest conspiracy. You can say the chemtrails are the biggest conspiracy, the GMOs, all these things are the biggest conspiracy, right? Okay, you got a point. These are some pretty big ones, especially the law, the religion one. To me, I don't know which one would be worse because they both ruin lives. Arguably the Catholic Church killed more people than law does, but Catholic Church is no longer really killing people, whereas the law is. And technically, if you go by what Santos teaches, the law is the Catholic Church. These people are acting as priests. But instead of being the priests like at the Vatican or any church in your established area, instead of just taking your forgiveness, or you telling them your sins and then forgiving you, instead of just doing that, they're charging you and sending you to jail. And if you're in the States, I don't live there, but I know there's still death penalty in places like Texas, I think Florida, certain states. 3-strike rule in New York means you're in jail for life. 3-strike rule in I think Texas means you're dead. They're not going to waste any more tax-paying money on you. You had your chance. But the point of that is they're still killing versus the Catholic Church isn't, but technically they are. But are they really the biggest conspiracies? Well, no. Well, yes, but they couldn't be done or performed or continue to do their conspiracies if it wasn't for the English language conspiracy. You can blame King James and all that, but, or Shakespeare or whoever, but whoever designed our English language, they're teaching us the way they made it. You can also say the monetary system there, the money and all that. You make your own promissory notes. That's the biggest conspiracy. But none of this would be able to be done, perpetuated, or used against us for first of all, if we didn't continue to allow it. But if it wasn't for the English language, if it wasn't for these hidden meetings, Black's Law, or all the words in the Bible being what it is, indoctrinating people in their religion, fucking telling you need a lawyer and you can't even speak at these courts. When the fucking officer comes up to you and asks you if you understand, meaning you are under me, agree. And if you say agree, you're agreeing that you're under him and he's allowed to do whatever you want. By allowing someone to come in your house who's telling you whatever, by saying, I am Corey LeBlanc, when a police officer or the judge asks you, are you Corey LeBlanc? By you just saying, yes, I am Corey LeBlanc, you are now done, Zoe. You're subjugated. You've just told them. And it's all a trick of words. It's all a trick, because as soon as you do that, you are basically stating that fiction on this capitalized name on this birth certificate, and you can do what you want with me. I just gave up all my rights. But you're not taught that. This is the independent media. This is the real independent media. I'm not saying I am, but the people I promote, I put on here, like Irene Gavin Horse. I hope I'm saying that right. But like her and Mark Hollywood and Santos Bonacci and Max Egan, and then, the witchy people like Birch and the fucking ceremonialists like Frederick Xavier and Grant Morrison, the rich fucks who are telling you magic did it and all this. All these guys, I'm promoting these people because what they teach, whether they say it outright or you have to read between the lines and extract the message, this is the real independent media. And I'm telling you right now, the biggest conspiracy to me, and you might be able to say, well, the English language can't be done unless this conspiracy was done first. And if you have such a point of view, then send me the message. My phone number is on my website, and I have I think I have a messaging system. I haven't tested it yet or had anybody send me a message. So if people are, I'm not receiving them. So if you guys are sending me messages from my website and I'm not receiving them, let me know through email. But as far as I know, it's working. My phone number is on there. My phone number is on my YouTube page. I think it's attached to my Instagram. Any of these places, you can hit me up with some kind of message to tell me that you think there's a bigger conspiracy than the English language. Because if there's something that had to happen to allow the English language conspiracy that we still kind of believe in and use, then yeah, I'm all for hearing about it. But to me, the English language, the words, the trickery behind them is all what makes all this happen, what makes all these things possible. And, how can we get rid of the English language? How can we? We can't, And I'm not saying, move to France or anything like that, because they have the same problem. And it's not necessarily the English language, but it's technically the way we're speaking today, the words we're using, the fact that, we have words that have hidden meanings, the fact that there's sigils out there programmed with words, and they don't tell people that this is possible. The fact that no one knows how to actually use their subconscious mind properly. And the only time you can prove it is if you do these things, have the results. And from there, if you continuously put a sigil up and say that sigil means this, and then 3 weeks later, here's the proof, I got it. If you keep showing people these results, then to me, scientifically, it's proven this shit works. And it has been proven by me and by so many others. And I know mine are small ones, but there's people that have had huge ones. Go on Frater's channel. I mean, someone won the lottery using the magic. His newest mailbag, he's talking about that. You know what I mean? It's huge. There's proof. This shit works. Do it. And then what are we doing? We're using the words to our benefit. This is why I say the self-transformation process is the first thing you should do if you're going to become some kind of political activist. Instead of getting out there and spewing truth, and especially if you're trying to become rich or something like that on YouTube by having these videos out, that's really like one of your hidden things that you hope happens, but really you're just trying to get the truth out. Well, first start your transformation process. Find out about these things. And I'm not saying you need to do the magic one. I'm not saying you need to join WITCHCRAFT. You can do it, do Taoism. Look out, I forget what his name, but where I learned a microcosmic orbit and stuff like that, learn about chi or the science of breath and shit like that, yogi. We're doing yoga. Yoga is not just fucking stretching and shit, although that's beautiful. I mean, I had a pinched sciatic nerve, and just from stretching, just from doing yoga, I relieved my pinched sciatic nerve. It was such a problem that anytime I sat down for any length of time, 30 seconds, a few minutes, and I didn't like sitting down anymore, but I would have that feeling and my leg would be fucked. It's like shooting sharp pain right down my leg. I had a pinched sciatic nerve. It's a nerve in your ass and your glute. And it was from sitting on a wallet for the 3 years that I was smuggling cigarettes, driving a car. That's how I pinched my nerve. That's what the doctor said. And by just doing fucking downward dog and all these different stretches on my hamstrings and up to my glutes and my legs and my lower back and doing this. Okay, I was working at the same time, but I've always worked out prior to that, and it's never got that. I was working out in spite of that, but I was barely doing legs. And through yoga, I was able to do that. And I wasn't really doing yoga right because I wasn't focusing on my breath. I was doing the stretches, and I was still breathing or whatever. But now if I was to do yoga, it would be eye-opening if you do the breath and you do the positions right. There's so many different things you can do. There's a book, Static, I don't know what it is, but it's all about different positionings of your hands while you're doing yoga or meditations and things like that release and open things up. If you breathe through your nose and you put your tongue, I think kind of like behind your teeth, but not on like where the roof of your mouth is, that opens up centers for the breath to go right to the pineal or the pituitary gland, one of those, and then it helps open your third eye. There's so much power in this stuff. We extract it through words because they wrote these books in words. But the point is, there are so many other practices and things and initiations you can do. Franz Barton, you don't have to, from what I know and what I read, it's initiation in hermetics, and it's not really like candles and based and stuff like that. It's doing different things like blessing your food and washing your skin a specific way and doing so many little things all at once, and visualizations and meditations and different things like that. And technically, you're not really doing what Liam Thomas Christopher teaches in there, and all these different things. It's a whole different process, and it's huge. But once you realize and you use these words to your benefit, then you're not bound by them anymore. And it doesn't matter. And I'll make the point again, but I'm still in the system. I haven't got rid of my fiction. So technically, if I get a fine, or I don't fucking pay my fucking mortgage or whatever, I am subjugated to being kicked out of these things, right? And so it doesn't matter. And you can say, well, do magic all you want, but you fuck up, you're fucked, right? And that's true. But the point is, I can always do magic. I won't get to that, because this way I can literally live in this fiction and keep manifesting the things I want, and it doesn't matter. But I don't want to do that. I mean, I do want to do that for my family's sake and all that, but it feels selfish. When I know what I know, when I know there's suffering out there, and I know there's people out there suffering every day, and it's not as easy as them picking up a magic book and going to them and be like, hey, while you're freezing this winter, read Franz Barton's Initiation of Hermetics, and every time you find food or able to pay for food or whatever, bless your food and things will get better. It's not that easy. It can't work like that. Something else has to change. And as much as I'm doing magic, and I believe everybody should do magic, and that's the reason, because everybody is doing magic. Magic is not the word I would use for what I'm trying to describe, what everybody's trying to describe. Frederick Xavier said it in his first or second video. He doesn't even like the word magic because it's got negative connotations. People think of Harry Potter and fake and fantasy and like miracles and shit like that, but that's not what it is. I mean, technically, when you manifest something, it kind of is like a miracle, but technically, you're always doing that. You're continuously doing that. That's what people don't understand. When we say magic, they think, oh, here we go. Okay. You would have them up to a point, and as soon as you say the word magic, sometimes even astrology or whatever, hypnosis, sometimes even the subconscious mind will throw people off now. Okay, that's what he's talking about. I thought he actually was going to give me a solution to my fucking problem, but it's just this. But the solution to your problem is you don't have to go around doing spells and rituals. You have to stop cursing yourself. You have to stop saying all the bad things about yourself. You got to stop the negative self-talk going on in your head. I don't know if you learned about self-talk in school. I did. I learned about it in elementary school and in high school. And for that very reason, I feel blessed because I hear about all the bad school systems and things happening. I hear people my age talking about all their shitty experiences in school. And I don't know if they're just saying that to make their point about the school systems being even worse today, saying how bad it was when they were there and exaggerating it. But for me, I learned a lot of this stuff. I went to a Catholic school, 2 Catholic fucking grade school and high school, both. And I learned a lot about spirituality and about your negative self-talk. And I learned a lot of good information I still retain today. I'm not one of these guys that graduate or I got kicked out of school, but I finished my schooling, and I think it happened for a reason, and it wasn't the curriculum that taught me. The curriculum was what it was, and it probably is terrible, and it's meant to make you be a little fucking slave and all that. But the things I learned were from specific individuals. Teachers is what I'm talking about. Every second year I'd have a pretty good teacher, to be honest. And you can tell the difference. A teacher that was just doing the bare minimum versus a teacher that went above and beyond. And I think that's why I learned the things I learned, because I learned some really important stuff in school that it's missing today for sure, 100%. But a lot of people my age or older are saying they're missing it as well. And it's like, well, then why did I get it? Why did I hear it? Why was I taught this stuff? There's a lot of bad things on the internet, on YouTube about the school system in the States, public schools and all that. And it's like, fuck, man, I learned all this shit in school, I did, so maybe I was meant to. Maybe it's because I'm meant to do something like this and educate people and all that, to try to bring light to the dark situation, telling people that it's not all bad. It doesn't matter. The curriculum is there for the teachers to follow, but it's up to that teacher whether it wants to follow it. Yes, it has to teach the curriculum, but it could do different things. And while you're teaching a student, telling them the curriculum and doing stuff, it's not hard to talk about other things or do other things or try to make a positive change and help these kids out. Tell them they can have what they want, especially if you're a teacher that knows this stuff. If your teacher believes in this stuff, you can find correspondences to tell these kids. It doesn't have to be all woohoo fairy-like, but that's the problem. So when someone hears the term magic, that's what they think. They think it's all horseshit, it's all bullshit. Music, like I made this correlation before where, the M's of witchcraft is a W, but it's actually an upside down M or whatever. But, music back in the day, classical music, Pythagoras theorem, he was persecuted or he had to hide to do his music, and then classical music and church music was popular. I don't, whether you want to say it's Elvis Presley, country music or Johnny Cash or whoever, right? Back in the day, people that is the devil's music, right? And then, and I'm not saying the devil exists, but some bad music can make you live in hell if you're listening to depressing music or music that doesn't serve you, or music that's telling you this and that, or making your mood one of a negative nature, or a lower or a maleficent nature, whatever you want to call that. Then okay, yeah, you can make the argument that you're going to be in a bad mood because of the music you listen to or whatever, or you listen to stuff that say tell you to anyways, I'm getting off the point, but it's devil's music, and then it's accepted, now magic is from the devil. I mean, do different things, and while you're teaching a student, telling them the curriculum and doing stuff, it's not hard to talk about other things or do other things or try to make a positive change and help these kids out. Tell them they can have what they want, especially if you're a teacher that knows this stuff. If your teacher believes in this stuff, you can find correspondences to tell these kids. It doesn't ever, right? Back in the day, people that is the devil's music, right? And then, and I'm not saying the devil exists, but some bad music can make you live in hell if you're listening to depressing music or music that doesn't serve you, or music that's telling you this and that, or making your mood one of a negative nature, or a lower or a maleficent nature, whatever you want to call that. Then okay, yeah, you can make the argument that you're going to be in a bad mood because of the music you listen to or whatever, or you listen to stuff that say tell you to anyways, I'm getting off the point, but it's devil's music, and then it's accepted, now magic is from the devil. I mean, it's always been, like I said, my grandmother, when she was a kid, she had these powers. Her mother knew she had those powers because she saw it. Plus, her mother before her was also the seventh sister. She was the first seventh sister. Then my grandmother was the second seventh sister, right? And I think that's why this stuff resonates with me. And I'm not saying this is 100%, or this is just, once again, my opinion, but everything is, I think, programming. They tell you when you're born, all right, genetics plays a part in certain characteristics and traits and stuff you're going to have, but your environment is way more influential on the child. Your genetics play a part for that baby growing in that mother's belly, basically, of what you're going to come out with. But my father, when he was a baby, had blonde hair and blue eyes, and he has darker hair than me. His hair color is actually black, versus mine is like a dark brown, and he's got brown eyes. Don't riddle me that. He came out with different features, and then it changed. Now, I don't know if this is still happening today, but it was very common. And the reason it was very common when my father was little is because he's from the baby boomers. He's from the people that, and their parents and grandparents came back from the war and all that, and then Woodstock came, and Club Not War and all that shit, and we had a lot of babies. So when these people were having lots of babies and we were populating the earth even more, there was more things happening like this, more of a chance to, right? Whereas people in this day and age, 2, 1 kid, well, I have 4, but 2 or 1 kid, and the odds of something like this happening, kids coming out with different features and them changing over time, is less likely to happen. There's also less likely of 7 sisters to happen and shit like that. So the universe had to adapt to it and all that, but everything happens for a reason. And to believe that we're in a big shitty situation because there's so many people, well, it's going to level itself out. Everything has to come back to balance. But anyways, the point is your environment programs you more than your genetics do. And this is huge. And this is what I talk about. You can say you're from a bloodline or feel like I don't come from a bloodline, so I don't mean shit. But technically, all you have to do is reprogram your mind to believe in this stuff. And that's why I think this stuff has a profound effect on me and anybody who does come from quote unquote witch bloodline. Because if you were a child listening to stories and being told this was real, and it never came back, and someone, because like when you're a child and you believe and who the guy who's coming in a couple months there goes all around the world in one day, if you believe him, if you were never to lose that belief, it would still be real to you today. It would still be magical, but it gets crushed for a reason. But that never got crushed for me. I grew up still telling those stories to people, still telling my family those stories, and still believing in it 100%. Perpetuating it over and over and over again. And to me, that's where the bloodline, the witch bloodline, comes in. Because once again, your water on a molecular level is no different than seawater, which is salt water, which is why it's important to take in salt in your water. But I'll go through that in a different episode again later. But the point I'm trying to get at is by your programming, what you're around as a child is what you're going to turn out to be unless you change it. Now, if you're one of these wealthy families who grew up in the inner circle of one of these elites who was told you need to take over the world and all this shit, well, yeah, you're going to grow up thinking that's good. You're going to grow up thinking that's what you're supposed to do. You're going to grow up believing that these other people below you are trash and they won't be able to do anything if it wasn't for you. So yeah, you might put in these rules and enforce this and do these evil things, but if you didn't do that, if we were to just leave the world and let people do whatever they want, they would just go around killing each other and doing that. And in all honesty, I don't know, this is going to be probably not nice to say and all that, but if we went overnight from our governing systems that we have right now, and we just said, fuck it, no more government, we're done, everybody take care of yourself, whatever you got right now is what you got, and that's it. No one, the police are all done. Protect yourself, do whatever you got to do, cook your own food, whatever. We're shutting everything down. Live free. This is what you guys wanted. You got it. Live free. If that was the case, there would be some fucking major shit because there's not enough people who are awake. There's not enough people that, that this could happen right now. We're not in a state ready for that. As much as I talk about, this stuff happening, the government hiding stuff, we can't get rid of the government overnight. We cannot. If we did, it would be major chaos. It would be the depopulation thing that we're talking about. It wouldn't be a comet. It wouldn't be a flood. It wouldn't be cold. It wouldn't be extreme hot. It wouldn't be any of that. It would be people killing people. It would be people stealing from people. All of a sudden, these bums that are on the road begging for food would gang up and go to the fucking biggest, richest houses or go to Parliament and fucking take over. Or they would try to do something. Obviously, they'd go to a store first and rob the store or pharmacies or the alcohol store or whatever the case was. But point is, you would have people banding together and trying to take over complete cities and making their own militia and doing shit like this. You know what I mean? That's what people are afraid of. And I'm not trying to put that out there. I think people are genuinely good. But people can be brainwashed or motivated or, coerced or told what to do. And that's the unfortunate truth. I believe that there's way more good in the world than there is bad. But I do believe if we went from what we have now to nothing overnight, then yeah, I'd have to lock my fucking doors and be very cautious and, have to go probably rob one of them gun stores and bring them back here to my house. I don't own one, but the point is, we need to start, Max says this in his thing today, and I agree with him 100%. We need to slowly reduce the government. We need someone who goes into power, who realizes that people can do more. We can give people more responsibility to take care of things themselves, and they don't have to govern everything. And, maybe we can do away with monetary shit and have a different way and find a way and, not disconnect from the rest of the world, but, let people just, eventually just keep getting rid of areas of government. I don't have the solution. I don't want to punt anything out there to make anything controversial because I don't know how to change the world. I know how you can change yourself and make your situation better while living in this shitty shit we got right now. But to me, I can't just do that alone. It doesn't feel like it's enough. Just sitting here and manifesting my life and taking care of my kids is great. All right, it's great, and it's my job as a parent. I love it. Protecting them, loving them, teaching them is absolutely what I live for. And that's why I feel like going to work every day, I'm missing out on that, and I don't want to miss it. I have my 2 stepboys and my older daughter that I missed out because I was working. My wife got to stay home with them. This daughter is the first daughter I got to stay home with. My wife did the first 5 months. I got to do the last 7 months. And when I went back to work, it was complete horror and torture. And I felt like a piece of me died. And I can't even put it into these fake words that we have. This first conspiracy I'm talking about, how I felt when I was away from her. And maybe that's this postpartum depression and all that, but it's just another proof of your environment has more to do with your programming and all that than your genetics, because I didn't give birth to her. Postpartum depression, the baby blues, that's something a mommy has when they have to get rid of their baby or whatever, or they have the opposite version, whenever they have these bad thoughts about killing their baby and all that shit, whatever the case is. And I'm not even going to get into that, but I obviously have my opinion and shit about that and have facts to back it up. But I had a form of, and I still do, because I don't want to leave her. I want to stay here with her. But I still do have that kind of mentality where, like a postpartum depression or some kind of depression about leaving her, some anxiety about that, and I was with her for only like 7 months. But I was programmed to feel like I didn't have to go back to work. And look at me, I'm still off. She turns 3 next fucking month and I'm still at home. I found magic, and that was my way to fucking stay home with her so I didn't have to go back to work. And during that time, like I said, I got the mortgage finalized, got a second car, all while I've been off. Like I said, I went back to work in between there. I gave through the story a few times there. I already had the one car, the Journey, in my name, and we're renting to owning this house and all that. And then I lost my job. And then, I went back to my job. I did a roofing job. I did this other warehouse job in between, that's when we got the fucking second vehicle after all the other stuff. But I got 10 grand a bunch of times and all that. But I'm still off 3 years later. I'm still here fucking around the house and taking care of my daughter that I don't want to leave, When she goes to school, it'll be a whole different story. And she's 3 now. It's only 1 more year to go. So. But that's my point. If you grew up believing in witches and had family witches and a witch line and all that, then you were programmed with that. It could be said if that keeps happening over and over again, then yeah, you probably don't even need to be told you're a witch. You probably just come out with a fucking broomstick and a pointy hat. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not, but my point is because if it's been a family who's embraced that power, who taught that power and all that, then you wouldn't have to be heard these stories to believe in this stuff. But technically, that's what they'd be teaching you. So the point, it's a moot point, basically. But yeah, it's about what you're around. It's not about what your blood is. And that's the same thing that separates us. That's why I don't like using empath or using, light work or children of light, star seeds and all that. Because anybody who wants to listen to stuff who doesn't identify with that stuff, might feel like they're not worth it or not enough or whatever, and it's not right. In all honesty, in the New Age community, there's enough of these little names to probably suit everybody. And within these names, there's enough characteristics in there that you can at least identify with a couple. So there shouldn't really be that stigma. But unfortunately, there's people that have infiltrated and are pretending to be something. They'll talk to one person who's high enough in there, get on their side and pretend to be all of love and light. And they get into a role where they're trying to attract people, or they deal with people coming into the community or whatever. And whenever they're a poison, basically. They're there to meet the new people coming in, and instead of being met with open arms or whatever, they're meeting them and they're turning them away or saying, oh, no, you don't resonate with this? No, you're not one of these. Oh, get the fuck out of here. You're not a real one. I'm a real one and all this. But then when they report back, they have all these excuses of why it didn't work out or blame the other person, And these people don't even know that it's been infiltrated and shit like that. And that's everything. That's magic community, truth community. That's fucking everywhere. But this magic connotation, this term magic, is not it. It's life. It's spirituality. It's the human being. It's us. It's everything. It's nature. It's the planets. It's everything. It shouldn't be called magic, but it was called that probably intentionally. It probably was something else and it was changed. And if it was called magic, well then it was intentionally done to make movies about Harry Potter and all these other magical movies to make people think it's not a reality. the first time I listened to anything about ceremonial magic, I was like, oh, I don't want to be a magician. I don't want to go on stage and perform tricks. That's not what I'm looking for. What the fuck? I couldn't understand why, searching witchcraft, I would find things about Gerald Gardner and the moon and radio gospel of the witches and all these different covens and all these different things. And then when I put in, magic and shit like that, or I forget what I was putting in, but I kept getting ceremonial magician. And I figured, ceremony meant, kind of like on stage. It was just a fancy term for it, And until I fucking read the first book, and it was like, what the fuck? Blew my fucking mind. But everybody's doing this shit. You need to shut off the TV, and you need to stop your negative self-talk. And that self-talk is the talk going on inside your head. This is why meditation practices are so important. This is why, focusing, why you turn off the TV, because you reduce your time on your phone and on your Facebook and all this shit. And you try to fucking journal and write and do these little creative things. Because instead of taking in information and just, sitting there and just being stimulated, you are opening up. You are doing things that are allowing your mind to go down a different path. I'm having trouble putting this into words, but it's if you stop everything you're doing and just start writing or trying to draw or paint, or you start to try to do a project, if you just try to focus on one thing, it's going to be very hard at first. And it's the same thing like meditation. If you just try to stop and just start meditating, it's very fucking hard. But with practice, you gain that focus, that whatever, and you realize that you can watch a TV show and it might be funny and all that, but you get a hell of a lot more fulfillment, happiness out of writing something down. For me, when I come out here and I speak, like I have so many shows written down in all of my books. Even like I have the book mainly for this show, but then I have other books and I end up writing shows in there too. But it was just like kind of writing down what happened, my day, spell work, whatever. The point is, I didn't write anything down for this show. I didn't do anything. I just came on here, and you can tell I got whatever ADD or whatever. But I'm off all these topics. I'm trying to stay on this magic topic, and I just keep hopping off of it. But the point is, when you're passionate and you enjoy doing something, you do it. You enjoy it. It's fulfilling for you. This is a big creative process for me, and I love it. It makes me feel so good to just open up and let all this crap out that's been in my head. And once I do, when I release it, more comes in. I got a check today. I'll tell everybody about it. I wasn't supposed to get any more of my EI checks. Okay, I wasn't supposed to get anything else. And, maybe I can put proof on there, because we looked at it. And, sometimes you get a 1 week paycheck if you're on EI, if it works out to having 1 extra week or whatever, or a few days or whatever the case is. But my last week was 2 weeks. I just stopped on the dime. So my wife got paid last week, and this was my first week without a pay. But we woke up today, and I had 1 week in there. And when she went online, it said this was my last week. But when we went on there after my last pay, it was my last one. And I'm like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, I checked it. And then I went and checked it, and sure enough. And I didn't even do anything for money this time around. We're not even at the full moon yet. But what did I do yesterday? Well, I packed up a bunch of food from my house, and I brought it over to a friend. My buddy Justin, he just moved into a place by chance. I ran into him 2 nights ago. He's having a little bit of trouble and all that, but the CIS was trying to take his kid and all that from him, and I brought him a pack of wipies, I brought him a few diapers, I brought him a bag of milk, a thing of bread, a bunch of food and all that around the house. I gave him a fucking DVD player and a little TV to put in her room, even though I don't believe in it, but she's going to be watching TV on their big screen all the time. And I brought her some kid movies that I believe are okay. I mean, better than watching other stuff, a couple Dora DVDs and stuff like that we don't use anymore. And all the stuff's just sitting around my house. Obviously the food would get eaten, but that TV was on the basement floor and the DVD was on a shelf collecting dust. What good is it doing here? Well, none at all. And I know if I would have told my wife, she would have got upset with me that I did that it's our money and all that, and not to give it away, but it was just sitting there. But then look what happened. I got another check out of nowhere by just giving away. I didn't even give away money. I gave away stuff worth, I guess, money technically. The groceries, I probably gave them about, I don't know, $50 or $20 worth of groceries, sporadic, between noodles and craft dinner and coffee and sugar and juice and the snacks for the kid, and then some apples and some oranges, some bananas, some blueberries and all that. Those are the most expensive things, believe it or not. Goes to show you. But yeah, and then boom, get a check today. never knew about. And you can make the argument, well, they probably didn't realize that you were entitled to a week and all that. But that's a moot point, right? I thought I wasn't getting any more money, but would have dwelled on that, whatever. And then I do this act of kindness and not expecting to get anything out of it. And look, I get something, it's amazing. Sorry, I'm getting a dry throat. But that's magic. That's, I guess, the point I'm trying to make. That's the magic. That's life. Magic isn't this term of hocus pocus crap. It isn't this fairy tale bullshit crap. Magic is what you are doing, what you're performing, what you're saying. Magic is occult. Magic is this hidden language of the subconscious mind that we're not taught about. That, truth be told, most people don't really know about. There might be some families in the elites and whatever of the world that fucking do know about this stuff, and it is handed down and down. But for us regular people, like I said, aside from like Birch and maybe Salem, places like, that, like Christian Day and I forget his boyfriend or husband's name or whatever there. And I'm a big fan of Christian Day, by the way. So if you're not, please don't stop listening to me just because of that. But, he gets a lot of shit. He takes a lot of shit and he does his own thing. He doesn't give a fuck what people think about him. That's how everybody needs to be. It doesn't matter what he's doing. Why does that affect you? Why do you give a fuck? It's complete garbage, people caring about what other people do. The only time you need to care about what somebody does is if they're actually hurting you or your family members or whatever. And by hurt, I mean anything like, stopping you from getting certain money or actually physically causing you harm or whatever. And that's the only time you need to take notice. And that's going to be up to you whether you need to do it by force or by like reason. And, like I said before, fighting fire with fire is just going to produce more fire. And that's the thing. Christian Day, like 9 times out of 10, I believe other people start with him. He doesn't go, I don't know, maybe in his past, but as of late, like he's, he runs successful businesses and does things. It doesn't matter if they're about magic and all that, but people are openly attacking him because he's helping people. He's helping people realize their dreams and do fucking things, and he's being attacked for it. And they're going to call him all this and that and say all these mean things about him. And yeah, he comes back and he fights fire with fire, but that might just be a fucking show too. Might just be part of the fucking show. Might be just him just fucking trying to get people to think he's mad at them and all that. He plays into it and he thinks these people, I don't know. Point is, he doesn't start these things, he fucking finishes it and all that, and people are just sticking their nose in places that doesn't need to be, but point was, besides those people that are like born and bred into magic and it's been perpetuating all their life over and over and over again, us regular people like my grandmother, her mother before her, my grandmother's mom, was told to stop doing magic when she was a kid or practicing witchcraft because it's of the devil. So she did. And then when she became a parent, and then my grandmother, her daughter, had powers, healing powers and all that. Healing powers, reading tea leaves, all this shit. She told her daughter, you know what I mean? It was passed down from generation to generation through Christianity, through the Bible. They were told through the priests, they actually went to the priest. I don't know. I can't remember if it was with my grandmother or it would be my great grandmother. But one of those storylines, okay, either my great grandmother took my grandmother and told the priest and asked her because it was either my grandmother was expressing disbelief that this could be from the devil. How can healing sick people be of the devil? Okay, I don't remember. My apologies, but I know it was either, and this story was told to me, but I don't know if it was my grandmother that, with her mom, went to the priest to ask, can this really be of the devil? Do I really have to stop doing this? Because she had a problem with it. It was either her or her mother. But one of them had this conversation with a priest, and the priest said yes. Unfortunately, it's God's will for these people to either able to beat whatever they have or to pass away. And we're not the ones that are able to play judge and jury and be able to choose who we get to pick to die or not. And my grandmother actually did come to that conclusion herself. She was reading people's fortunes, and then she gave someone a bad fortune, and she didn't want to do that anymore because, when she saw something she didn't like, or she knew a friend was going to die, it was very hard to deal with, hard to cope with. So she decided not to do that, and she stopped doing the healing thing and all that. This is way after there, because as a child she lost it, but then when she got older, she started doing it again when she was with her friends. like in teen years and all that, away from home, whatever. They didn't really go to school very long in those days. They had to go work on the farms or whatever, or go help their mom in the house or whatever the case was. But yeah, so she was doing it after, and then she had to come to that conclusion herself because it was too hard to deal with. And then, but the whole time in the back of her conscious, she's probably thinking, well, God thinks I'm being bad at the same time, So we're taught that this stuff is bad, but it's not. This is life. Some of us can do these things, some of us can't, Some of us have to learn how, some of us will never know how. It's just the way it is. And the fact that, they've twisted this magic word and, it scares people away before they even know what it is just part of the programming. And it's one of the things that bugs me the most about this day and age. Because magic shouldn't be called magic, it needs to be renamed. But that's the point. You need to rename all your words. You don't have to go around through the dictionary and put a different meaning on all these words, but you can make general statements as that, make a spell, reprogram your mind to say that any words that I'm not aware of, 2 or more meanings, that have an effect on me I'm no longer affected by, or I'm no longer bonded or held, I'm having a hard time today. I'm no longer affected emotionally, physically, spiritually by any words of the English language that have hidden meanings or something like that. If you have an affirmation saying, I am I can't say not. I am free from secret meanings of malicious words that have malicious intent. I don't know. You have to figure it out. This is something I've actually never done, to be honest. I just make my spells myself and I twist the words around and all that. And, I try not to say certain things that I know about. And I read books about different languages. And I got a few books about the English language or the Queen's English and about Rune and not Jewish, but the Hebrew language, the Hebrew alphabet and all this. So, do your research. But anyways, I think that's enough for today, enough for just rambling about it. I'm going to have a show on tomorrow. I'm going to try anyways. I know I got a few things to do tomorrow though, but I'm going to try my best to do something tomorrow. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it and I hope you have a good day. Bye now.
Max, are you out there?
I certainly am, brother. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clearly here. I actually had to yell into the mic for a moment here and hit this channel here hard enough so it can actually work. Dead channel.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, the other mixer I had on here earlier, something happened and it really screwed up with the old mixer here.
Okay, interesting. Digital to analog.
Yeah, something happened. I'm not quite sure what it was, but now everything's rolling again and I'm quite happy. So thank you so much for being here. I do apologize for all the inconveniences here tonight, Max.
Oh, good, brother. All good. We're here now. Let's do it.
For sure, my friend. And before we begin here tonight, there's all sorts of things I do want to cover with you, but there are those out there who have never heard of you before. I thought you could sort of tell us a little bit about yourself as we get things rolling here tonight, my friend.
Okay, well, I guess I'm just an independent researcher. I spent my life as a musician. I kind of lived on the outside of society for all my life, which was kind of good because it gave me a window to look at the freak show from the outside and not really have to participate in it too much. So, and I became an activist. I've been an activist most of my life, but I became full-time activist probably about 10 or 12 years ago. It just became necessary to do so, with the state of the world. So I spend most of my time travelling now and doing lectures and radio shows and making films and just trying to bring about some sort of positive change and wake the world up to the fact that we're in serious trouble. We need to pay attention to matters of state. So that's basically it, I think.
Oh, yes. Definitely. And of course, Max, earlier, as I was introducing you here, I even read that you were attacked.
Yeah, that was probably 3 or 4 years ago. That was after one of my talks speaking out against a particular state that I don't think we're able to mention on YouTube anymore. The men with small hats live, and I got badly beaten. I got a couple of cracked ribs and a few things like that. So it just goes with the territory. It's just the way it is,
Yes, but of course you were not at any sort of age to be taking punches, Max.
No, I was about probably 59 or 60 years old, so it's sort of, it jumped from behind. It was pretty low. I mean, it was outside. I got jumped from behind. I got hit, basically got punched in the right ear and hit to the eardrum. You lose your balance, It's very, very disorienting. And I kind of dropped to the ground and took a few kicks around the ribs and stuff. It could have been a lot worse. I mean, I was completely down for the count. I mean, the person could have killed me if he wanted to, but he didn't. So that's one consolation, I suppose. But it goes with the territory. I get lots of death threats. I get lots of people wanting to attack me. I had someone tell me that if they see me in Philadelphia, they intend to shoot me.
Really?
A few weeks ago, So a few things like that. I mean, it just goes with the territory. You don't really take too much of it too seriously. It's just the way it goes when you become an activist,
Well, apparently so. I just wouldn't imagine being attacked at that age. I can't even be a man being attacked at this age. Over your words.
It's bad being attacked at any age.
That's right.
That's just the way.
It
just goes with the territory. You've got to have pretty thick skin, and you've got to be prepared for these sorts of things to happen if you're going to speak out,
No doubt, but of course, you were attacked over words, basically. That's always silly.
Yeah, well, that's pretty well what happens most of the time, really. If you look at history, people hear words they don't like and they have no recourse, and so all they have left is physical violence to try to shut you up any way they can because they just don't want to hear. So, it's just the way it goes.
For sure, and of course you're out there in Australia. What is the weather like out there, Max? As you know, I'm out here in the desert, and it's triple digits, so I'm usually dying right now.
It's actually beautiful. It's just coming into spring. First day of spring today here, and it's beautiful. It's an absolutely beautiful day, and it actually feels like spring. It's warm, it's sunny, it's a beautiful day. So, it's good. It's good.
Well, you can't do that out here. As soon as you open the door, Max, it feels like an oven outside.
out to you?
Central California. That is way down south. Way down here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be in California next week, actually. I'll be in California. I've got to go to LA.
Oh,
Next Tuesday next week, I'll be flying to LA. So, yeah, I'm pretty used to Southern California.
It does get pretty intense down there. Yeah, but now it's a little bit nicer, so you should be fine out there. And, of course, can you tell us a little bit about your travels to LA as we walk along here with you?
Yeah, well, I've got to go to LA. I'm actually speaking in Philadelphia. I'm just going to go to LA and sleep for a couple of days, get over the jet lag, and then I've got to go to Philadelphia and do an anarchist convention, Anarchadelphia in Philadelphia. That's going to be a 3-day event on the 13th, 14th, and 15th. That's going to be great. It'll be Mark Passio. I think Larkin Rose is going to be there. Jeff Berwick's coming along. A whole bunch of people are going to be there. So it'll be good. It'll be a really good event. And then after that, I've got to go to Mount Shasta. I'm doing an event I think it's the 27th of September at Mount Shasta. It's called the Avatars of the Earth Gathering. Now, I'm just going to be basically doing a workshop there. I'm just going to be kind of sitting around and having a conversation with the people. I'm not really going to be doing a presentation. It's just going to be a workshop and conversation and see where it leads. Because sometimes these sorts of gatherings can, you can go to some really great areas when people start questioning you, and you just have an open conversation. It can lead to anything. So I'm looking forward to that one. And then after that, there's a good possibility I'll be speaking at an event in Denver, Colorado. I won't be able to finalise that until I actually get to Philadelphia. The guy who's doing the gig in Denver is coming to see me in Philly. So we're going to work that out. And then I've got to go to a wedding while I'm over there as well. A friend of mine is getting married in Spokane, Washington. Benny Wills from Joy Camp, actually. Anybody who has not heard Joy Camp should really go and have a listen to this guy because he does some great stuff. And so that's one of the main reasons I'm going over there, actually, is because these guys are getting married. That's what made me agree to go and do the talks. So I've got 3 talks to do while I'm over there. It's going to be pretty lightning whirlwind visit. I'm there for like 5 or 6 weeks, and I've got like 7 stops to do. So
killing multiple,
won't be too much time off.
Yeah, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, basically.
Yeah. Well, they invited me to the wedding, and I went, October, nah, there's no way I'm going to get to the United States in October. And then I got offered a talk in Philadelphia, and I thought, well, okay, that's pretty close. So that gives me a reason to accept the talk. Because I can't afford travel. This is the problem. I don't have a lot of money, but they offered me the talk in Philadelphia, and I thought, well, okay, I can just get them to book their return flight a month later rather than a week later. And that way I'll get the flight to the United States covered, and I can actually go to Benny's wedding. So that works out pretty well. So it's amazing the way the universe works,
Oh, yes, that's the great thing. Sometimes the universe will work in your favor, and for others, sometimes not so much. And speaking of Philadelphia, it's a pretty tough crowd out there, and someone threatening you that's from maybe the Philly area, I'm not surprised to hear that whatsoever. Are you at all in any way, sort of, I guess you could say, afraid of what could possibly happen?
No, not at all.
They're just threats.
I don't really do fear. I mean, you get threats like this all the time. I've had threats from so many people over the years. I've had so many death threats in emails. And you say something on air that people disagree with, and you get death threats over it. It just goes with the territory. That's just the way it is. You've got to have pretty thick skin if you want to be an activist in the real world. And Philly's a tough crowd, but it's a good place as well. I've got some good friends there, and no fear. I don't have any fear of anything. I mean, I'm not scared of death anyway. So the karma would be on them, and if the universe wants me to go out that way, then that's what will happen. But I don't think so. I don't really have a stake in any of this. So. No, I just don't do fear. I don't really concern myself with these things. I find them kind of novel. It helps you're on the right track, really. If you're upsetting people to that extent that they, are getting that upset about it, well, you're probably, hitting areas that people should hear. So, it just goes with the territory, brother.
Amazing. And, of course, as we roll through multiple topics here tonight. Last time we discussed a plethora of topics, and I wish to do this the same here tonight. And of course, I wanted to get your permission Max, if it's cool with you to take phone calls here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a problem. I'm happy to take calls or whatever.
All right, awesome. If anybody wants to call in anytime, if you have a question or if something sort of pops up during our talk here, please feel free to call in. That number is 760-332-8724. One more time, 760-332-8724. Don't be afraid to call in. We would love to talk to you. So, Max, as you are probably aware of by now, there's all sorts of tragedies going on here in the United States. People are being shot left and right. And here we go yet again, Max, as we take our focus back down to West Texas, where there was another mass shooting, my friend.
Yeah, I just saw that on the news just before I came on air. I haven't actually looked into it, but just saw it on my news feed as I logged on here. So, yeah, it just seems to be almost a daily occurrence in the United States now. They're really trying to do what they can to disarm the people. I think a lot of people are seeing through it all. I think a lot of people are seeing through these shootings. I mean, so much of it is staged, so much of it is theatre. You know, there was a video footage of the shooting in Philadelphia. I saw what looked like the police running back to their car and spraying blood on their arms and then running back into the fray. So, you know, they're doing what they can to try to disarm the people of the United States. They really need to push this gun reform through. I mean, they're not going to be able to just disarm them, but they need to be able to push the background checks and all this sort of stuff that they want to do, and relabeling anybody who has shows like this as being potential terrorists and all of this sort of stuff. But, you know, they're doing what they can to make the normal people, you know, normal in inverted commas out there, but, you know, see anybody who talks about government corruption or anything that we talk about as being a potential terrorist, basically. And they really want to push this divide. You know, if you look at the United States, it's the main activity that's happening there is a polarization of American society. They want to divide them into, you know, two camps and then split those two camps into another two camps and, you know, have a left and right of every opinion. And, you know, it's all about polarization. That's what all this is about. And they need to make us look like we are the potential terrorists. We are what is the danger to society because we're questioning the government actions and the people desperately need the government to keep them safe. You know, so it's all part of the same play. It's pretty standard for them to do this sort of stuff, but they seem to be getting desperate. You know, they've really stumbled over so much stuff in the last year. The complete farce and debacle that they did with Christchurch, which revealed the extra players and showed the police involvement and all sorts of stuff, all caught on the shooter's video. And then you've got this ridiculous so-called alleged suicide of Jeffrey Epstein in a maximum security jail that's not possible to commit suicide. I mean, you know, they're desperately trying to, you know, distract people from that as well, I think, you know. So, and they know the wheels are falling off. A lot of people are looking at this stuff. I mean, the Epstein case, people have looked at this and gone, maybe not. It's interesting, like just before his alleged suicide, he went and changed all of his will and all of his finance. So all of his money gets funneled into all these companies and nobody knows who the beneficiary of all this stuff is. I mean, it could be him. He could have just been smuggled out of there and they could have him somewhere else and all of his money's being funneled to him. I mean, we just don't know. We can't possibly know. But even if he is dead, well, there's no way that he committed suicide. He was murdered. You know, if he's dead, then he was murdered. So either way, the official story just doesn't add up. And so many people have seen it and just gone, this is not right. So, you know, it's causing the wheels to fall off the system. The fact that they would suicide him in that jail, you know,
that's wild.
So obviously not what they're saying. I mean, it shows how desperate they are, and it shows how much dirt this guy had on people that they had to get him out of the picture as quickly as possible, you know. And there's no way of knowing whether he's alive or dead is the problem, you know.
I agree. And 2 cameras malfunctioned outside the jail cell where Jeffrey Epstein died. So, I mean, come on. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, if this was a movie, you'd leave. I mean, you know, we've seen this script before too many times. Come up with something new. This is ridiculous. You know, all the cameras just happened to fail. The guards just happened to go to sleep. This guy, the most important prisoner in the history of prisoners, is there, you know, taken off suicide watch and left unattended. And I mean, come on. You know, you can't even make this sort of stuff up. It's just ridiculous. Like I said, if you saw it in a movie, you'd leave. So, you know, it shows how desperate they are, though. It shows, like, for them to they didn't even have the nous to move him to a jail where suicide would have been possible before they did it. They just did it, you know. So it shows how paranoid they are and how much they're losing control, how much they're scared people are waking up to what's going on, you know.
It's really interesting, and it's picked up the last couple months. It seems like 2019 has just been insane. People have lost their minds all over the place, especially here in the United States, Max. I'm not quite sure what it's like out there if people in that area have lost their minds out there in Australia, but certainly in the United States, people have lost it, my friends.
Well, yeah, they have. And, you know, I said at the start of the year I could feel that this was going to be a really, really big year. And we're going to see a lot of stuff happening, a lot of changes happening this year. And we certainly have. I mean, a month after I said that, we saw everything just go pear-shaped. You know, and people it is like people are losing their minds in some way. And you've got to wonder what's causing that, whether it's just the information that they're getting, or whether it's there's deeper reasons for it. You know, looking at things such as history. I've been looking at history a lot lately and looking at the alleged cataclysms, or what appears to be cataclysms that have happened recently, and even looking into the Black Plague and a few things like this. The show that I released yesterday, I was talking about all this.
Right.
And when you start reading through these reports of things, when there were grand solar minimums and stuff, there's a lot of mental instability. There's a lot of strange things that start going on with people's minds as well. Now, we're electromagnetic beings. Everything is electrical. And this is an electrical universe more than anything else. And so I think there may be even larger things at play here, which is just causing everything to snowball, even as far as human consciousness. I mean, I know it's pretty out there to think about this sort of stuff, but I think there are influences that are non-human, that are, no, I'm not saying alien or anything, I'm just saying electromagnetic or ethereal or something. I think there's deeper things going on here as well, you know?
Yes, there's different electromagnetic energies out there that you could definitely tap into and even control someone with. Certain frequencies cause different sort of reactions in that individual.
Well, yeah, I mean, they could do this sort of stuff with 5G and all that sort of stuff as well. If you start looking into DARPA patents and you start looking at what they can do with electromagnetic interference into the human condition, I mean, it's all quite out there. It's all there in their patents. You can go and read that on the CIA website, on the DARPA website. You can see in their own words what they already know they can do with this sort of stuff, cause mood swings in the public and whatever. They've even done experiments where they've experimented on vast sections of population, like whole cities and whole counties, with electromagnetic interference to see what it would induce in them. And you can read all the reports on their websites. So we know this is possible. But when you think about that, you know, the concept of them attempting to do it with 5G and the technology they're putting in place, what I'm suggesting is maybe there's something even bigger beyond them. Maybe the sun or whatever, how this universe works, how everything interacts with each other. You know, perhaps we don't really take into account the effect that this sort of stuff has on human consciousness as well. I mean, when you look at things such as the full moon and all this sort of stuff, you know, werewolves and, you know, how the police always get more reports of murders and people go crazy on full moons.
That's
true. So there's all sorts of weird electromagnetic stuff going on, you know, and I think there's even deeper and bigger things that we're simply not taking into account, possibility anyway.
I think you might be right about that, but also we jumped a little bit ahead of a few things I did want to ask you about, and one of those things was going through your website, Max. It was almost like going back to websites back in '98 when I first got my computer, and I don't mean that as an insult to you. I just love the nostalgic feeling I got as soon as I went to your page and looked at some of your artwork there. It brought me back to a lot of things, Max, especially some of the clan artwork you made for the video game Quake.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's stuff there that I didn't actually make artwork for Quake, but I used to be in a game
clan, though.
And we used to
tailor the scenes ourselves. We used to dress up the interior of the game ourselves and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, I mean, I like the old website. I like the old HTML website. I don't like the new WordPress websites. They look like a phone app, and I don't use a cell phone. And I like the art. I like the artiness of it. I like art, and I like to create things myself. I made every pixel on that website, and I enjoyed doing it. And yeah, I've never wanted to change it. I find also with WordPress sites, if you go outside their rules, I mean, if you start saying stuff that isn't politically correct, they may delete your website because you've got to abide by WordPress community standards. It's kind of like Facebook. It's the Facebook of websites, you know. So I've never gone over to WordPress, and I won't ever go over to WordPress. And I just like the nostalgic feel of the site as well. I mean, I don't get to update it as much as I'd like to these days. I just don't have time. I don't even get to make the video clips I'd like to make these days for my radio show. I tend to get half a clip done, and then I just don't have time, and I have to fill it up with just graphics that I've used a million times.
Yeah,
it's just the time to do anything. I even wonder whether the days are getting shorter, because I'm sure I used to get so much more done in a day than what I do now, and I work faster now than I did then. So I don't know what they're doing with the time as well. They seem to be messy with everything.
Yeah, everything does take a great deal of time, and of course it says that you are a musician as well. How far back do you go, Max, playing music?
Well, I started playing guitar when I was like 5 years old. I realized I wanted to be a musician, but I didn't actually get a guitar until I was about 10 or 12. And I started playing back then, and I left school when as soon as I was old enough to leave school, I walked out in my third year of high school.
Oh, wow.
I became a musician, and I spent most of my life as a musician, traveling around and just playing guitar and doing front of house and having a great time, you know. And I got to live on the outside of society for most of my life, which was great.
I love that.
It gave me a kind of unique insight. And being a musician, I mean, if you're a half-decent musician, everybody wants to talk to you. So you get to meet lots of people. So, you know, I've sat in the gutter and I've had in-depth conversations with drunken black people and white people and all sorts of people. And I've sat and had dinners with royalty. So, you know, I've met people from all walks of life in the travels that I've made around the world, simply because of being a musician and being an open sort of a person, you know.
I understand completely.
And it was great. I always steered away from fame because I saw what it did to people. I never wanted to be a famous musician because, you know, when I'd be in a band and they want to put out a single or whatever, then they want to start molding us and training us to be something that I wasn't, you know. They wanted to turn me into something that wasn't me. And I thought, well, I don't want to do that because I see these famous people, and I see what happens to them. And I see so many people, so many of my friends have died along the way through the journey. And I look back at it now and I think, well, it was great that I had that attitude because, you know, when I was a young guitar player, when I was 22, 23 years old, I was probably one of the best guitar players in Australia. I mean, a lot of people told me, you know, I don't know why you're not world famous. And I said, well, it's because I don't want to be, because I see what it does to people. And the problem is that when I look back at my life, you know, I would have liked the fortune, but I didn't want the fame. I didn't want to be able to have people stop me when I was walking down the street and want to say hello to me and all that sort of stuff. I used to get that anyway. You know, I used to meet people and people say, oh, you're that guy I've heard about. I used to hate that, you know, and it would have been even worse if I was famous.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
you know, I didn't want that. And I look back at my life now, and I had an addictive personality. I wasn't the nicest person. I mean, I was never a bad person, but I had a bit of ego going on. I was a long-haired rock and roll guitar player.
So you had a couple vices.
I had a bit of stuff going. And plus, I felt invincible the way you do when you're 22, 23 years old. And if I'd made $1 million by the time I was 25, I would have been dead by the time I was 27. I would have been in the dead at 27 club because I had that type of a personality. I wouldn't have handled that type of money. I would have done everything you can think of to destroy myself if I did that much money at that age.
And Max, by the way,
so when I look back at the universe, it guided me in the right way, you know.
Understood. And Max, I was just going to quickly tag on. Did you have any sort of vices as well, like, you know, traditionally, most musicians have in the past?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I used to drink a lot. I used to smoke a lot of weed. You know, I did all sorts of drugs, you know.
That's normal.
But I was never a drug addict, but I did all sorts of stuff. I mean, but if I'd had the money, I mean, I probably would have been a lot worse, is the problem. And you're invincible at that age. When you're a young guitar player and everyone thinks you're incredible, and you've got $1 million,
right.
You end up like Kurt Cobain, Gee, I wonder if I can shoot myself in the head,
He couldn't handle it.
Even Kurt Cobain said he used to enjoy it when he used to be able to walk to a music store and look at a guitar on the wall and go, wow, and dream about owning that guitar one day. Now he can walk into the store and buy the whole store if he wants to, and it's boring. That's the problem. It takes the magic out of the music. I just wanted to play music. I just love music. I just wanted to play guitar. I didn't want to be famous. I didn't care if I was sitting in the dirt. I used to think the whole concept of getting up on the stage with the light show and all the stuff and the people cheering, it was so pretentious. It wasn't about music. It was this obscene thing that happened, And you go to a poor country, you sit around in the dirt and the slop and the dust, and you just play with the people off the street, and the music reaches these incredible heights, You don't get that. In the Western world, we put it up on the stage and this whole commercial thing takes place,
right,
It's a whole different world. And I just wanted to play music. So it got me through that world. It was interesting because when I was 4, I found out something was terribly wrong with the world, because we had to buy land and all this sort of stuff. When I was 8, I found out about the pyramids, and so I put all the Batman comics down. I wanted to know about ancient history from that point on.
Interesting.
And then, I got to school and I started arguing with all my teachers because they were teaching us stuff that I'd read different stuff in books, and I couldn't figure out why they weren't teaching us the real things, or at least teaching us to question, teaching us to expand our minds. They seemed to be, locking us into this little box and training us to be little cogs in the big machine. And I just went, no, I don't want to do this, So I argued with all my teachers. I got kicked out of 4 high schools. And then I became a musician and only had to work maybe, 20 or 30 hours a week. Not even that, like just 10, 15 hours a week sometimes.
That's the
and get paid more than what most people were getting paid in normal jobs. And it gave me the ability to be able to have all this free time to go and research all the stuff I wanted to research, and travel around the world and meet all these people from all these different lives and do all the stuff I wanted to do to answer all these questions. And then when it got to the point where I had the information, then the universe took everything away from me. All my music got stolen, all this stuff happened, and I had no other option other than to immerse myself in my research and become an activist and put all the information that I gathered along the way to use and do what I'm doing now. So it's an interesting thing, that's just how my life worked. But it's because I didn't ever want that thing that they called success. Because to me, success was to be a successful person. It's how well you treated others. It's how good your health is. It's how much you enjoy a quality of life, and a quality of life being doing that which you enjoy. And I enjoy just sitting in the trees and feeding the chickens and having a very, very simple life. So, and I enjoy people. I'm a real people person. So to me, that is quality of life, and to me, that is success, because your success is measured by the amount of people you help and the amount of friends that you have. To me, that's success anyway. So,
and you brought up Kurt Cobain, by the way. That's a very interesting point you made. And, of course, he's someone who couldn't handle it either. And he was, of course, addicted to drugs, and he thought he could handle it. And look where that got him. And it's interesting because the best musicians, in my opinion, have always been addicted to heroin, even though that's not exactly PC to say. But all the best ones have been. It's quite ironic, Matt.
Well, it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting drug, heroin. A lot of people that I know used to use heroin. They talked me into it once, and I used it a little bit, and then I got an addiction. One day I realized that I was addicted. Just because I had that extra bit. And as soon as I wanted to have more, as soon as my body went into toxic shock because I didn't have any, this was only after using it for a few days, I just went, oh my God, I'm addicted. And I stopped. And I never ever had any since. I went into cold turkey for 4 days and just did that. So now I know what that feels like too. Yeah, so I know what heroin addiction feels like, and I know what cold turkey feels like. And I'll tell you that there was one time when I went on stage and I was on heroin, and I went, wow, I know why musicians use heroin. Because when I was playing, I felt so connected to the music. I don't know whether it sounded as good. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But I know how connected and how much in the flow of the music I was when I was on heroin. And like I said, I only used it for probably a week, But then I had some every day, just once a day. Everything was good. And then there was one day where I had some twice in a day. And then 3 hours later, my body went into lockdown. I went, okay, that's what happens.
Yeah.
You don't want this.
That's good you recognize
that. I'm in control
that.
of my own reality now, not in control of my body, not in control of anything. So that's it, I stopped. And people couldn't understand it, saying, well, you've got some there. Why are you going through all this pain? I said, because I'm addicted. I don't want to be addicted to anything. So, but it was interesting. Like I said, the universe gave me that perspective. I understand what heroin's like now. I understand why people use it. I understand how good it makes you feel. And I also understand the pain of withdrawal and what people go through when they stop using it, because I've done it. But that doesn't. I mean, but I was never a drug addict. I was never someone that was out there using heroin all the time and involved in that scene. I was just around people who were using it, and after about freaking 2 years, they managed to actually talk me into having
Talk you into it, yeah.
I thought, okay, this is interesting. And but now I know anyway. Now I know it's just all part of the experience,
Exactly. It's all part of life, really. And it's terrible when you see someone you love, however, go through something like alcohol withdrawal, which I've seen with my own very eyes. And that is also another one that's really hard for people to get clean of. It's heroin and alcohol, the worst.
Yeah, they're terrible, terrible drugs. I mean, alcohol is worse than heroin, really. I mean, the reason you get so addicted to heroin is because it's such a biological, natural drug for you. It's very, very similar to your own metabolism. And so your body stops producing certain things and it uses the heroin because that's what it does. So I've known people, like I had a friend of my father's who was a morphine addict, same thing really, morphine, heroin, it's just a different sort of form of the same drug. But he was a morphine addict from World War II. And I knew him in the 1980s, and he was in his 80s, and he was still a morphine addict, and he was a very, very healthy man. He just used enough to put his body back into balance, didn't use it to get out of it or anything, wasn't on drugs. But he'd been a morphine addict for like 40 years, this guy.
Wow.
And it didn't affect his health at all. So that's the thing. But alcohol just destroys your body. It absolutely, completely destroys you. And it's a terrible thing. But these sorts of things, I mean, drug addiction, this shouldn't be a legal issue. This is a health issue. And it's a social issue. And drug addicts and people with these problems should not be locked up in jails. They should be healed. And what most of them need is love and understanding. And we do terrible things to heroin addicts. We put them on methadone and stuff like that, which is far more addictive than heroin, far more damaging. They'd be better off using heroin than methadone. So
yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like it's like, take this. This will help you. But it's in fact
it's shocking. It's shocking what we do. I mean, it's a social issue and it's a health issue. And you should get the legalities right out of it. You really should. I mean, what they did in Amsterdam when they legalized all drugs in Holland, it basically solved the drug problem because people didn't want to use those sorts of drugs anymore. People only really want to use them when they're illegal. That's the big attraction for kids anyway. We can do something sneaky, So
you definitely lose that. Yeah, you definitely lose it, especially as someone who occasionally drank during high school. You would say to yourself, "Oh, I can't wait till I'm 21 and I could buy beer." And then once you actually hit 21, you're not even drinking very much at all.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. My parents used to let me drink when I was a child. They'd give me a glass of beer when I was like 7, 8 years old. And by the time I started high school and came out, I wasn't interested in drinking at all.
You're basically American.
I mean, I did drink a little bit of. I was a bit of a bourbon drinker when I was a musician. I think it just goes with being a guitar player. I don't know, but then I just stopped that as well. I mean, I was never really addicted to alcohol. I never really addicted to drugs, but I dabbled in things.
Right.
But then one day I just decided I didn't like drinking anymore. I just didn't like the way it made me feel. So
Yeah. So you were just able to sort of guide yourself without having to use the gimmicks, then drugs.
Well, yeah. I mean, I still like smoking weed.
Sure.
I enjoy weed. I've smoked weed since I was 12, and I probably always will.
It's legal here, Max, so you can enjoy that quite fine here in California.
Yeah.
I'd definitely go for that. And of course, one more.
It's an ally for me, you know. It helps. It helps. I got so much stuff rattling around in my head. I mean, a lot of people smoke weed and it messes them up. They can't get focus. But for me, when I smoke weed, it gives me focus. I'm actually able to
you could function,
correlate my thoughts and put them into some sort of focus and get a decent thought stream happening. So it just works, you know, for me.
Right.
For some people it doesn't, but it does for me.
Everyone's different, and you're someone, Max, that I could already tell that you're someone who's creative and that you could use these sort of things, and it actually helps your creativity, as it would for most individuals out there who have, I guess, some sort of tolerance. Some other individuals who don't regularly consume marijuana whatsoever, you know, they take a few hits or whatever it is, a bong or any means, and they flip out. Everyone is a little bit different, and of course, different strains cause different sort of effects on the individual. It all comes down to that person's mental health. And just like we were talking about earlier, mental health is very important. That's why you have all these people out there going nuts out there all around the world, Max. Their mental health is severely lacking.
It's weird. It's weird though. I mean, it's coming this year, and it's getting more and more and more. I think we're going to see more of it. I think we're going to see society getting crazier and crazier over the next over the next decade.
Probably right.
And I think a lot of it is electromagnetic. You know.
Yeah, some people have been telling me about the year 2020, January 2020. I'm not quite sure what's coming, but a lot of individuals out there who, quote-unquote, channel have been telling me about this. Many individuals. I'm not quite sure what's coming, and I'm not quite sure what your opinion is, Max, on those who claim they're channeling whatever it is they're doing, Max. I don't know where you are along those lines, but I would love to know your opinion on that.
Well, 2020, it's an interesting date, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Like, you wonder whether that's going to be when we all start seeing things clearly. And what do they call it? 2020 vision. It's an interesting thing. Why not 10-10 vision? Why not 100% vision? Why 2020? What's going on with that number? There's a lot of people saying. Well, one thing about 2020 is that the whole smart grid will probably be online by 2020. But I think when we're really going to see some major changes is around about probably 2040. But the thing is, like what I was mentioning earlier, the grand solar minimums.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting. When you look at grand solar minimums, if you look at in the past, either the 1600s, there was a grand solar minimum in the 1600s when all the maps changed. All sorts of stuff happened, pestilence, all sorts of things. Another one in the 1800s, and all the maps changed again in the 1800s. And we are heading for a grand solar minimum now. We just moved into it, actually, in 2019. The electromagnetics have changed. Sunspot activity is starting to die down, and we'll be in full swing of the solar minimum by 2040. So I think that is affecting things as well, and I think that's going to have a major effect on people's consciousness, and possibly, we'll see some of that next year. I mean, there's all sorts of people saying, predicting things to happen in January, 1st of January 2020. I don't know how they can come up with these specific dates like that.
Right.
But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, interesting to see. Perhaps there is some sort of a etheric conjunction or whatever. I mean, who knows? Who knows? I mean, I just go with the flow these days, brother. I choose not to believe anything.
Yes.
And
wise.
It's like if you can think of the concept of, like I said, about having no fear before, how to get through this and how to get through this world, how to get through everything that's coming and have no stake in the outcome. Because, I mean, a lot of the information we look at, when people get a stake in the outcome, they go into fear, they think all these terrible things are going to happen. They get depressed over it. They want to lock themselves away. What you've got to be able to do is just see life as being truly how awesome it really is. I mean, just the fact that we're here is awe-inspiring. It is just the fact that I can look outside and see trees and grass and sky, and that I can actually be sitting here having a conversation with someone on the other side of the world who is essentially part of the same consciousness that I belong to, of the collective consciousness of mankind, of the universe, of God, of whatever you want to call it. It's absolutely awe-inspiring to be alive. Life is a state of constant awe, if you can just allow each second to unfold. And that is a trick to getting through life, is to be able to face uncertainty, to be able to face infinity with no stake in the outcome, to be able to face infinity without flinching. Because you don't know what's coming next. Anything is possible. The only thing that is not possible is that which you believe is not possible. And this is all based on your belief system. And we don't even know a tenth of 1% of what's going on in this universe, ultimately. So, if you can face infinity without flinching, then you can get through any situation. And so that's why I have no stake in the outcome of any of this. I often tell people, belief is the enemy of knowledge, because you're only halfway down the path. You don't know what's coming next. And if you adopt a belief system, then there's going to be all this stuff that you miss out on. Simply because you don't believe it's real. I mean, what about the stuff that exists outside visible light that we could probably even see if we could believe that we can see outside visible light? It's what our science has taught us is real, what our society has taught us is real, and we really have no clue. So you've got to be able to look at the world and look at infinity without flinching. That's how to get through everything. That way nothing surprises you. That way you don't have any fear of anything. It's all just part of the journey. If I was to get arrested and thrown in jail, that's just the next part of the journey. If someone was to come along and shoot me in Philadelphia, it's just the next part of the journey. No stake in the outcome of any of this, brother. I'm only here for a breath.
Especially
what we came here to do ultimately is...
I was just going to quickly say...
what we came here ultimately to do is die. I mean, that's a given,
Well, right.
So why have it? It may be that this is a soul test. It isn't what's most important is how you die. What's most important is the mental state you're in, whether you face that without flinching. Because maybe that's the real journey, because this life is so short.
Right.
How come we come here with all this incredible intelligence and all this incredible complexity of human nature, and we only live for 50 or 100 years? It's ridiculous. I mean, this can't be all there is. Perhaps this is simply the exam that you do before the real test, before the real journey starts and the real existence starts. I mean, we don't know. So you've got to be able to face it without flinching, all of it.
We definitely are born to die, Max, as they say. And speaking of that, Max, where do you align yourself in terms of religion? Are you a religious person, Max, at all?
No, I don't do religion at all. I believe in a higher power. I believe in what you would call God, but I don't need religion to get in the way of that relationship.
Understood. I'm an agnostic atheist myself. I pretty much feel the same way you do, Max. Keep Jesus in reserve.
I think...
Never know.
I think there is a higher intelligence that people would call God, but I don't need someone else's interpretation of that. I don't need a book written by King James. I don't trust the king anyway.
Same here.
And I don't need someone else to tell me what that connection is. I have a great relationship with God, and I don't need anybody else to get in the way. So I think it's when people look for the answers externally to themselves, and all the answers can be found within.
Right.
If you want to get religious, even Christ said that. So, people are looking in the wrong direction. People are afraid to know themselves, really, and that's where the truth lies. That's the only truth you'll ever know is yourself.
I like that. And Max, what really got you started down this path in terms of activism? What case was it exactly that really opened your mind and sort of guided you along this sort of path that you're on today, Max?
Well, look, I became active, publicly active the way I am, and making the movies and films and radio show and stuff. When 9/11 happened, I just thought it was a need to do it. But what started me on the journey was when I was 4 years old, and my parents told me we had to buy land, and I was horrified at the concept of buying land. because I thought, how can you own the earth? Would we have to pay to be here? We have to pay to be alive. We have to pay to have a roof over our heads. I couldn't understand why we couldn't just go and live in the forest. And I had a terrible childhood from that point because, I just couldn't. I thought I was born into a madhouse. And so I just wanted to find a way through it. And I found a way through it as a musician, but that became a bubble for me. I lived in that bubble for a long time. But then when 9/11 happened, I thought, well, hang on, this is serious. This is the big event we've been waiting for that we thought was going to happen, and it's going to usher in this new world order they want to usher in and all that sort of stuff, which is essentially the control grid and the smart grid. And I thought, well, it's now necessary to put all of this knowledge that I've got into action. I've got to start telling people about the clear and present danger we're now facing. So that's kind of what got me started publicly. I mean, and when 9/11 happened, I was hitting chat rooms and all sorts of stuff like that. I didn't really know how to harness the power of the internet. I didn't find out about YouTube until like 2007 or 2008. I think it only started in 2005 anyway, YouTube. But I thought it was just a place where high school kids uploaded their videos and stuff, so I'd never really looked at it. But then I found out that there was this whole sort of truth movement on YouTube, so I started doing that. I thought, well, that's a good way to get the word out to people. So, but I've been on this path all my whole life. But like I said, I kind of avoided it for a long time. I stayed in the bubble. But when I can look back, like I said, but the universe kept me in that bubble because I didn't have all the information I needed yet. And it wasn't until I got in the point that I had all the information, and then the universe took everything away from me and didn't give me any other option. It was either that or commit suicide or just immerse myself in my research because I had nothing left but the shirt on my back.
Did it really come down to that, though, Max? Suicide?
Well, I got to the point where I lost everything that ever meant anything to me. Music had been my whole life, and I was the musician guy, and music was where I went for my source of strength. And when my ex-wife stole all my music and stole my stereo, stole my whole music collection, all this stuff, and suddenly music became my source of pain, and I didn't have anywhere to go to find strength because my source of strength had become my source of pain. And it was a weird place to be in, and all I had left was my mental faculties and my research that I'd always been fascinated in history and what happened and why we were in that state. And I was in a pretty bad mental state. I mean, I'd been living in a homeless shelter. I'd sort of brought myself back from that. And every time I get a little bit up the ladder, my ex-wife would come along and just stick the knife in and do something else to me and take something else from me and ban me from seeing my son, all sorts of things. She tried everything she could to destroy me. And when she took absolutely everything from me, I suddenly became free. It was the greatest gift anybody had ever given to me when I lost every single thing that I owned, almost everything that I owned. I still have a few things stashed away in storage, but everything, like all my music stuff, when I lost that, it was the greatest pain I ever experienced, but it was the greatest gift that had ever been given to me. Yeah, that's chicken. Shut up!
The chat room there.
And, And so it freed me, and I lost attachment for all personal possessions. I realized how meaningless it all was. How I had been, like I said, I was the music guy. I was the music. I was my music collection. I was all this stuff that I had, but I wasn't me. It was a distraction from being me, and it was a bubble that I was hiding in to not ever have to face being me and not ever have to share being me to the world around me, So, like I said, it was an incredible source of pain, and I could have gone that way and taken it as painful and just said, well, that's it, I'm over. Everything that means anything to me is now gone, so there's no point in being here. And those thoughts crossed my mind. But then suddenly I just felt free. I just felt like, wow, now I don't have anything to hold me back. I could just go and do anything. I don't have to. I could go and travel again. I can do whatever I want to do because there's nothing here to hold me here. There's no stake in anything anymore. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What's important is me. I've got what I came into the world with, and now I've got that time for reflection. I can look at my life and say, well, why has it brought me to this point? And it's obviously brought me to this point because now I'm supposed to step onto this path, and so I stepped onto it, and it's been like a blessing stepping onto this path of activism. It's just all unfolded, but I couldn't have done it had I not lived my life as a musician beforehand, and I couldn't have done that had I not left school in the third year of high school, and I wouldn't have done that had I not gone into the forest with my parents when I was 4 years old and asked them why we couldn't live in the forest. So when I look back at it, and even understanding what it's like to go through a broken relationship, what it's like to not be able to see your child, what it's like to be addicted to drugs, what it's like to go through a withdrawal, what it's like to be a homeless person. I can even share something with you that I don't share with many people that I've been coming to terms with that I can share lately as well, is that when I was about, I don't even know, I think three or 4 years old, I was raped on the beach.
Oh, my God.
By a man. So I know what it's like to be an abused child. I know what it's like to go through all of that stuff. So
that's pretty heavy.
I've lived in a storm drain and I've lived in a mansion. I've been an abused child. I've been a drug addict. I've been a famous, guitar player. Well, not famous, but I've been playing in front of thousands of people, and been the adoration of the crowd. I've done all sorts of stuff, and so I can relate to people on so many different levels. And when I look at it, I look back at my life and I go, all of it was a gift. Every single thing that happened to me was a gift because all of it brought me to where I am now and made me the person that I am now. And I think I'm an okay person. I think I've got value. I've helped people. I'm a worthwhile person. I'm a good friend, and that's something I always ask myself, and that's something people should ask themselves. Are you the type of friend that you would want to have as a friend? That's something we never ask. Are you the sort of person that if you met yourself, would you want to be a friend with this person? Would you see this as being a wonderful person you want to be around?
I think at times we do definitely go through that at one time or another in our lives, whether it's through maybe drug use or even alcohol use. You definitely come back to that sort of mindset where you ask yourself, am I a good person? Everyone definitely goes through that, no doubt, Max.
Well, it isn't just are you a good person, it's are you the type of person you would want to have as a friend? Are you the type of friend you would want to have as a friend?
Right.
And we get led, even when you get back to religion, we get led little certain ways by subtle nuances. There's things like do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Well, that's not a good thing to do because maybe you're a sociopath.
Yes.
Maybe you're a masochist. It should be do not do unto others that which you would not have done unto you.
Also, Max,
that subtle shift.
Yes, and also no good deed goes unpunished, Max.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
that's the way it goes, isn't it?
Oh yes. Well, Max, I do really appreciate you opening up here and telling me about that ordeal. I had no idea that you actually went through something that disturbing and that awful, Max. I'm glad you were able to get over whatever it was during that time period. I'm sure the mental anguish that you must have experienced after something like that happened to you, Max, that I'm not quite sure how old you were.
Well, it's a weird thing.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's a weird thing because I didn't remember half of the day until I was about 45 years old.
Jeez.
There was always this day that I couldn't remember half of. But what I remember is that suddenly when I was 4 years old, I started soiling my underwear again. And that went on until I was about 6. My mouth and it sort of went from there. But I couldn't remember anything past sitting there. And I mean, she would have lost her children. She never told anybody about it. She never told the rest of our family about it. And she died before I could question her about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it was something that I had to deal with on my own. And I've always thought, Mum, I wish I could have just said to you, Mum, what happened on that day?
Yeah.
But, and that's more than I've ever shared of any of that.
I'm glad you need
story.
to. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, though, Max, because it's best that you definitely get these things out there. Definitely people do care about you, Max. I definitely want you to know that. people do genuinely care about you, and they really do appreciate you being as honest as you have been here tonight. It's that's a heavy stuff you're dropping here tonight.
But it shows the power that we have, though. I mean, I've been that far down the tube, brother. This is why I keep saying to people, the concept that I'm someone special, I'm not. I'm you. I'm like everybody. I've been through all the same shit that everybody's been through.
Right.
And I can relate to that. And the fact that you can be so far down the tube and don't ever think that you cannot come back. Don't ever think that you are not worthwhile. Don't ever think that you cannot make a difference. Because look what I've done. Look what I've done. Look what I've done. I've managed to meet millions of people I've reached. Some of my videos have got millions of views.
That's
some
true.
of my videos. So, one small person, one small voice who is just prepared to be honest enough with themselves to be honest with other people can make a difference. And it doesn't matter what people say about you. It doesn't matter about the death threats. It doesn't matter about people who think differently to you, call you a shill, or call you this, or call you an agent, call you whatever because you're not thinking in the same box as them. It doesn't matter. None of it means shit.
True.
What matters is the lives you can help by being yourself and being prepared to be yourself and understanding what you are and what's brought you to this point and realizing that all the things that happen to you happen for a reason. It's what you do with the information. I could have committed suicide. When I look at my life, all the bad shit that's happened to just about anybody, I've been through the whole lot of it myself. I've been through so much shit in my life. And I could have easily gone the other way, but I chose to use it as information to empower myself and to empower others, because if I can empower others by my journey, that will maybe prevent them from having to go through that. And ultimately, I need people to wake up. I want everybody to wake up because I want to be free. And I can't be free until everybody's free. So, what are we contributing to that? And even in this so-called truth movement, all this stuff that we do, what's the meaning of it all if it isn't about freedom? That's what it's always been about, is freedom. That's what this whole thing's about. And the freedom to express ourselves and be ourselves and realize that all this stuff happens to keep us back and to keep us from being free. But it's the choices we make. It's what we choose to do with the information that comes to us. You're on a path, and everything that happens to you is simply information that is coming into your consciousness, and it's what you do with it. So I could have done the wrong thing. I could have become violent. I could have become a thief. Could have got a chip on both shoulders and gone out and taken out my anger and frustrations on the rest of the world and hurt people if I wanted to. But that's not what it's about. It's not what I chose to do with the information. So, don't ever think that you're not worthwhile. It doesn't matter what's happened to you. It's all been for a reason. And like I said, I look back at all of that stuff that happened to me and I see it now as a gift, because it brought me to right where I am now, sitting here having this conversation with you, being able to share this with people and maybe being able to help their lives. So, that's what it's all about.
I think you will. Yeah, I think you definitely will reach those out there who have gone through something traumatic in their lives as well. And I definitely like to remind everyone out there and those people too, how quickly life can turn around in an instant, Max. Definitely don't give up on yourself. Not you, Max, but anyone listening to this. Life can quickly turn around for you in an instant, my friends.
Absolutely. All those things that we thought were terrible, that really, really bad moment you had 20 years ago when your whole world fell apart and you wanted to kill yourself, how do you feel about it now? Doesn't mean shit, eh?
Right.
Doesn't matter. It all changes. It doesn't matter. Just don't hold on to this stuff,
Right. And I'm sorry to change the subject very quickly here, but I also forgot to mention that I did get a chance to hear some of your recordings on your website, by the way. Some of the audio that you've made.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that were just a few old things that I had around. I didn't have much left. When my ex-wife stole all my music, she deleted all my stuff, took all my recordings.
Oh, man.
That was just a few digital things that I had. But I had all my old band tapes. I had so much stuff.
She went right for she went right for the jugular on you there, Max.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Took the whole lot. And then wouldn't let me get it back. Said possession's 9/10 of the law. If you try to make a fuss, I won't let you see your son. So it was the end of that.
Yes, I hear you. And by the way, did you even record those guitar parts too? Specifically on the 9/11 song?
Yeah, that's all my stuff.
Damn, Max, you are pretty good.
I used to be. I wasn't that good then. I was when I was earlier. I recorded all that stuff when I was probably 50 years old,
It still sounds good to
maybe
me.
45.
I've been playing...
When I was 25.
25.
When I was 25, I was playing some good shit.
Understood. I've been playing in a band and been playing guitar and bass for most of my life, to be honest with you. I've done a lot of recordings, but, I prefer the bass. There's something really rewarding about that low end. Not sure why.
Yeah. If you can play it well, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. A good rhythm section is a good band.
Definitely. And Max, you are an analog man, right? You're definitely not for the digital age.
No, I even like digital music. Digital mixes. You're mixing with digital. It sounds like glass. It sounds layered. You can see through each layer.
I could understand
you can
some
hear
of that.
each layer separately, and I don't like that. I don't like the warmth of it. I mean, I don't like the coldness of it. I like the warmth of the bleed between the tracks and the analog. A digital mix. It's the only way I can describe it. It sounds like glass.
I can understand what you mean by that. Definitely.
You can literally hear the layers.
You kind of can. It kind of
too
floats.
Much clarity.
It sort of floats above the sound for some reason. I know what you mean.
Yeah. My father, before he died, when radio and everything and TV went digital, he couldn't watch TV anymore, and he couldn't listen to radio anymore. He had to go and he went and bought an old transistor radio, battery operated, and he used to listen to that.
Wow.
Because he couldn't stand the sound of the digital radio, and he couldn't stand the sound or the colors of digital TV.
Yeah, understood. There is a bit of a difference, no doubt. And, of course, Mr. Egan. Do people call you that, by the way? Do they call you Mr. Egan by any chance?
It's a strange thing when people do, but sometimes they do, yes.
Yes, I like to sometimes call people in their formal name like that. So sometimes I do have a habit of doing that. But I did want to ask you one thing here. In terms of the latest craze and all sorts of topics here in America, one of the latest and most popular is the topic on ufology. Lots of people have been going crazy about that, especially this past year. I definitely wanted to get your take on UFOs and the paranormal, that sort of realm. Some listeners even asked me to ask you about that, so I'm curious about your reaction to that.
Well, the question is, are UFOs real? Well, sure. I saw one in the year 2000, and it looked pretty real. It was a textbook UFO disc, glowing light, the whole thing. The question is, who's driving it? I didn't see the driver, so I don't know. The whole concept of, are we being visited by ETs and all this sort of stuff? I don't know. I can't prove any of it. Maybe. I'm open to everything. Belief is the enemy of knowledge, as I keep saying. But the whole concept of disclosure and all that sort of stuff, they're going to let us know.
Right.
They've been saying this since 1976.
That's
I've
true.
been waiting for disclosure. About every 10 years it comes up, disclosure. It's like every 10 years we've got a new cataclysm.
History repeats itself, Max. You know that.
Yeah, I keep saying to people, they do this every 12 years. It takes 12 years to get through high school. And so every 12 years they have a new catastrophe. Back in the 60s, we're heading for an ice age. Then in the 70s, it was the hole in the ozone layer. Then in the 80s, they told us global warming and the world was going to be flooded by the year 2000. Then in 2000, it was peak oil. We're all going to be running out of oil and everything. We're all going to have no power. Then it was, I think there was something else. I can't remember one of them. And then suddenly it's climate change. And now we've got the kids coming out of high school telling us the world's going to end in 12 years. It happens every 12 years.
Max,
it's the same sort of thing, UFO disclosure. Every 12 years or so, there's a new big push for this and a new ET expert, and disclosure is just a matter of moments away. They've even booked the airtime. It's all going to happen. I've been hearing this since 1976.
Yeah.
So, I saw a UFO in the sky, so I know UFOs are real. It was an object. It was flying. I couldn't identify it. So, therefore, it was an unidentified flying object.
Correct.
The question is, who was driving it? Was it multidimensional, Did it come from the inner Earth or the outer Earth or another dimension or another planet or just over the hill? Who knows? Was it being run by CIA or Little Grey? I don't know. I didn't see the driver. So, but I know UFOs are real because I've seen them. So that's there's people ask me with this, and I say, well, look, all I can really do is give you my opinion on other people's opinions, none of which I know whether they're true or not. So
never know. Yeah.
For me to even give you an opinion on what I think about aliens, all I'm doing is offering you an opinion based on absolutely no fact or personal research at all or personal experience at all. And all we'll succeed in doing is muddying the waters a little bit further because I really don't know. So that's about all I can say.
Well, it's good.
I saw one.
Sure.
Who was driving it? No clue.
It's good to speculate. Always fun. And and of course, I did want to ask you another thing about Donald J. Trump. And of course, I know you've played video games for a long time yourself. Same here. I grew up playing Quake and playing all sorts of first-person shooters. Unreal Tournament, another game that I love. Did you ever play that, by the way, Max?
A little bit. I wasn't really into those sort of games too much. I used to play a little bit of Enemy Territory with my son because I like the team nature of it. I didn't really like to just shoot 'em ups, like Quake and stuff like that.
And team deathmatch is there. That's always fun. And but what I was gonna get at was recently Donald J. Trump blamed violent video games on all these recent shootings, and I personally disagree on his assessment. And I wanted to know your take on that, Max. Are violent video games